Hello world. Tells me I'm live. Never quite believe it, but it does. Oh, that was a performance with cameras. Yes, it's having a moment, the camera again. Anyway, how the dickens is everybody? Mike, Lola stood there. She clearly wants a treat.
I'll give her a treat.
No, I've got treats. Here we go. I'm opening the bag of treats. I'll give her a bigger treat.
Come on,
You're actually hearing live the opening of the treats. So is Lola. So she's very excited.
Come on.
Come and say hello to everybody, Lola. Come on. Now, spot welded these things. There we go. I've got it. Lola.
Oh,
good girl. Right, she's just made off with a dentist stick, so that's one happy dog. How is everybody else? Graham, we've missed you all week. Hello, Paul, again. I've got the right Paul in the right order this time instead of last time. All very embarrassing. Hello, Kim.
An error occurred.
No, it's telling me I'm live. Have I gone?
Oh, you are.
Mike's got an error. There's always one, isn't there? There's always one. Yes, my webcam's just not having it. I've had to reconfigure the entire webcam. Don't know what's wrong with it. But hey-ho, I'm in now. Okay, what have we got for you tonight? Let me just get the camera going on the other one.
Kiva heard the treat bag and responded.
Sorry, Kim. It must be a universal calling. Oh, that's genius. Oh, I won't do that again. Naughty, naughty me. Right, let me get back to the chat. Now you freak me out totally. Hello, David. Hello, Neil. We were talking about you before, Neil. It was something to do with where something was, wasn't it? What was that, Mike? It's been a heck of a day. I said Neil would know exactly where it was.
Something in Timperley, probably.
Something local. When it comes back to me, I'll let you know. And who else we got? Hello, Mike. Good to have you with us. So I am going to hand over seamlessly, she said. Don't believe it. YouTube's having more than one moment tonight. First of all, you will see my blank desktop, and then with a bit of luck, jiggery pokery and magic, you will eventually see Keynote. Yay! And I can still see this. Excellent.
I think we've got some new people in.
I think we do have some new people. So good to see everybody who's with us. Because you're all stir crazy at home, aren't you? Well, we're crazy here. We're going to try some extra different stuff tonight. That's what I'm going to say. Could this be because we're slightly underprepared? No, we're not underprepared at all. It's just a matter of pulling it all together at the last minute. Given that we've had a crazy week. I said last week, I made the fatal error when Mike decided he was working from home, which was 10 working days ago. Well, that's going to be easy. We'll have more time. I shouldn't have said that. Should not have said that. It's been chaotic. I got to bed at about 4:30.
And I got up at 5 o'clock.
And Mike got up at 5 o'clock. And I was back up again before 9 o'clock, so anything could happen tonight. And we've got a busy weekend as well, but never mind. Okay, let's go into what we've got. If there's any spelling mistakes, I take full responsibility for it, all of it. We have got the week at MacBites headquarters. If you are new and wonder what the week at MacBites headquarters is, it's what we've been up to this week. We like to live stream with you, and it's usually fun, and it is this week. There's loads of stuff. Greg's still crazy after all these years. Excellent, excellent. Then we've got an idea, only an idea, for replacing Fantastical. Rationale behind that one was, the subscription's obscene, isn't it? I only wanted it for a particular thing, and I stumbled across something, so I'm going to share it with you. Then we've got making magic with an ocean import, which would have been fabulous if I'd had time to make sure that my process actually works. But we'll do it in terms of let's learn together. It worked the last time I did it, but that doesn't mean it's going to work the next time, does it? That's how these things work, or not. Then we got some freebies. I have some new freebies. I have some new, because we're all stuck at home, aren't we? Trying to make magic with our designs. So I've got a couple of stock image sites. Then Mike is going to long-winded. Oh, Mike, I've got Virtual Presenters Toolkit in there twice. I could fix it, but I won't. I've no idea why that appeared twice. But basically, he's going to be creating an automated table of contents for Excel. Forget the Virtual Presenters Toolkit on that line. The line below the Virtual Presenter Toolkit has been requested. Something that we do has been requested. We've been presenting virtually since 2001. Things have changed a bit, but you know what? Fundamentally, what you do is exactly the same. We'll be talking about that as to whether you should get married to a particular platform or not. I need to count up the number of platforms I've used, and I don't care what I present on. The way I present is exactly the same, so I'll be sharing all of that. Then we have an unboxing. Not saying more about that yet. Unboxing. Right, okay. You need to be watching in HD because we broadcast in HD. Apart from when Mike gives me a heart attack telling me we're not broadcasting at all. But we do. We broadcast in HD, 720 HD. So make sure that you have the red flash on the cog below the video on the right-hand side. While you are there doing that, if you find something useful tonight, give us a like. It really does help with YouTube. And without further ado, we are into the week at MacBites headquarters. I did mention this a little bit before and then I forgot to share with everybody. So thank you for Tracy for reminding me. I am still not caught up in Slack. I am not ignoring anybody. I wish you could see the state of this place. In fact, shortly you will if the video camera's going to play ball. So we started off, yes. Madam went out for a walk with her first family and came back. Look at those feet. Filthy. Absolutely filthy. There's my cable for my internet as well. We had to drag all of that out. You're aware of that from the week before. The rip you see on the bed on the right, that was all her. Yeah, getting very uppity. So, without further ado, she was dragged back outside. Not a happy doggy. No. And this happened. Then she didn't speak to us for a week. She was unceremoniously dumped in at the front end and then dumped in at the back end. Not a happy dog. I did manage to corner her for a bit of a photo when we'd done. She was more wet than anything, but at least her feet were clean. Honestly, what can you do? That took us through to Sunday, which in the UK was Mother's Day, and I was spoilt rotten. I got loads of presents. I'm loving my butterfly. I actually adore butterflies. So I got my butterfly. And Rachel, our girl, not big on dogs, but adores her sister. So there you go. Now, we also talked on the show that day about the fish. Remember the fish? This was the fish that we had when my mum was very seriously ill, and Mike put it in the oven and it didn't end well, and my mother knew, and despite the fact she was lying there breathing her last, it was, I could help with the fish. Well, we found some. We're on half rations and we're eating anything we can find, so that is half a portion of fish with a lot of vegetables, and it was delicious. The expiry date on it was 2016, but a week on we're still here, so this is what it's come to here. But the fish was very, very nice. So well done, Mike, for that, for making a meal out of something we could actually probably, in normal circumstances, we would have been wasteful and would have thrown that away, wouldn't we? But no, it was very tasty, very tasty. Now, Monday. Monday, I was trying to do a show, and so was Mike. Unfortunately, it wasn't the same show and we were in different rooms, and Mike's was more, well, I hadn't actually started when Lola decided it would be a good idea to go round the garden. And I told you what had happened and I dashed upstairs and I was like 30 seconds late. Mike is a very good cook. He is a very good cook. He tasted lovely. And we dived upstairs and she wanted to go out with her toy. That was the problem. And I said I would share her toy with you. This is said toy. This was the toy she wanted to take out into the garden. I managed to drag it back inside and eventually get Lola upstairs. But she hasn't been, what would you say, talking to me for since Monday. But today she's forgiven me for dragging her in. I told her it was important and that we had a show to do, but she wasn't pleased. So that's the green dragon I'm talking about. Since that photo was taken, Pete's on his way back home, by the way. Just let us know. I'm wondering how Pete is in the suturing department, because it's been torn since then. So that took us through to Tuesday. Oh, Tuesday was a big day. Brace yourselves. This is an image that I'm calling Man is the Hunter. Apart from the fact you can see, you know those toffees he was eating earlier? There's some more on the desk. But look what he sat in front of. Asda. He only managed to get a slot. Now, it's not for like 3 weeks away, is it? But he got a slot. So we were so excited, I had to capture that. This is what it's come to. Now, Wednesday, you know, I mentioned that green dragon and the fact it is now in need of Pete's tender loving care. This was the moment. Yes, she wasn't having any of it, and I was trying to take photos to send to her first family because obviously we're all on lockdown and they can't see her. So I wanted a good photo, but I did actually manage to get one. That is unretouched from an iPhone 11, which is pretty good, isn't it? Very clear around the eyes. Not quite so clear on that one. Madam was moving, and I had it on portrait, which you can tell round the edges. She looks a bit ready-brecked, but not bad. I captured the movement, didn't I? The movement. She did eventually let go. Look at her face. So that was Wednesday. I was basically just outside with Lola running around, burning off some energy, shall we say. By Thursday, everyone that was able to get out was taking photographs of the locality, so places around here. This is where we live. This is a place called Sale, S-A-L-E, as in January sales. That's our main high street. Not a soul. That person was heading out to go to the chemist to pick up medications to take to somebody else. So when they posted it, they said, I am allowed out. I was picking up medication. This was, did I say Thursday or Friday, Mike? Or whatever day it was, this was rush hour. That road is usually jammed with 4 lanes of traffic. 5 as you head to the lights. Jonathan will probably recognise that. It's coming from Manchester, Jonathan, on the right, over to the left, heading up to Altrincham. Neil will know that as well. That is it's the bingo place. What did it used to be?
Gym.
It was a gym, I think, originally. Ah, Renee is back. Hello. This is also the main road heading from Manchester, heading into Altrincham. That's very close to us. Mayor used to go into a nail and beauty shop there, obviously not to have anything done. He was too manly for that. But he held court, and they loved him in there. It's just bizarre. You'll know that one, Neil. That's the main road. That's just before the Pelican. Yeah, Washway Road, just before the Pelican pub. And it is usually absolutely chock-a-block. I don't think I've ever seen it like that, even at night, even when we've come back from somewhere at 2 a.m. Hello, Stephen. I've never seen it as empty as that, ever. Now, the next one, this is our little Tesco. So, Jonathan, you might now know if you've been up Manor Avenue. This is the Tesco on Manor Avenue. Now, they haven't got anything on the floor, on the outside, and we haven't ventured on the inside, but people are standing 2 metres apart, crisscross 2 metres apart. They've always had security on this store. The security is still there, and it's 1 in, 1 out. It is the Pelican, Neil. It's bang on the Pelican, that last one. So this is what's happening there. Petrol, however, they're giving it away, aren't they? It's now less than £1 a litre, which is still obscene, but better than it was. And Pringles are £1.25. So there you go. Now, this was also the day. So yes, this was Thursday. We have been that busy, going out would be a nightmare. Plus the fact, what we'd like to do if we were going out is ring and reserve, which means like click and collect. So basically you put all the stuff in the basket and then you go pick it up. There's no dog food. There is just literally no dog food. If you've been following along in the week, you doubtless will remember me mentioning the price of said dog food. We normally buy dog food at £3.50 for 6 tins. This week, £48.15p. Not even joking. But Lola was a happy doggy, because my bestie only rocked up with dog food. So Nina was her hero. Look, we opened the porch door and look, we had dog food. Nina's not big on dogs either. But she said these were so heavy as well. Now, the reason that's important is, we discussed this, our Tesco's on two levels. The bottom Tesco, Neil will know this as well, Tesco in Sale, it's on 2 levels. The entire store is on 1 level, which is the ground level. And the top level is the car park. Now, other Tesco's that are being built now, the car park's underneath and the Tesco hovers over the top of it. But our Tesco, the only way to get a trolley up to the car park is in a lift. There's only 2 of them, and they're only letting 1 person in at a time. And obviously Nina couldn't carry that lot, but bless her, she She knocked on the door, said, "Don't open the door, I'm putting something in," and she left dog food for us. We are so lucky. Now, that was Thursday night, so obviously at 8 o'clock at the appointed hour, we headed out to do the clap for carers thing. There is video of this, as you can see. Mike's got a video in his hand, but I've not actually got hold of it yet because, madam, look at that face. Butter wouldn't melt. Not long after that was taken, because at that point the neighbours opposite hadn't come out, but not long after they did, they have 2 dogs, Raffles and Alfie, and she likes to play with them. So she decided she was heading across the road. Yeah, that wasn't happening, Lola. But Lola had other ideas. She only managed to slip the collar. So the video, Mike's phone ended up in his pocket as he tried to scoop the dog up. As the neighbour came across, it's like, we can't be in 2 metres of each other. Oh, good grief. I think Graham's got all the toilet roll in England, because we didn't have any toilet roll either. Yeah, the Sale one was one of the originals. The Earlham Hypermarket, I think, was the original. And that was when that was the biggest store. Don't know if Altrincham is bigger than that now. It's not bigger in terms of area, but it's on multiple floors. So it could well be. But yeah, the original one was the Earlham Hypermarket. There's also a huge one at the Middlebrook Retail Park in Bolton now. But Sale is like the one that time forgot. And these 2 lifts can't cope on a good day. So they're certainly not coping now. Now you've got a queue to get in the store, you've got a queue to pay, and you've got a queue to get up to the car park. So much so, I said to Mike, people are going to be trying to drag trolleys up the stairs. It's only about, is it 2 or 4 flights? It's 4, isn't it? You have to turn twice. Yeah. So it's 4 flights of stairs, and they're not too steep, but you wouldn't make it with a trolley. Not unless there was 2 of you. So, yeah, Lola was in disgrace last night. But we did do our clap for the carers thing, and it was really good. We also did it in the middle of the show. Now, this morning, I was trying to get some sleep when Mike bounded in. Luckily, I wasn't asleep. To tell me that Boris has tested positive, whatever. I had far more important things to think about. Oh, the excitement. I actually put on Facebook, I've not been this excited. I don't think I was this excited when my last iPhone was coming, because look, oh, the excitement, my order was coming. That was my order, the purple flag, and that was me waiting for my order. I was ready to pounce. Sadly, they'd taken some items out of my order. So I still had no toilet paper and no dog food. I had what Nina had brought the day before, which will see Lola through about a week. Before long, he'd found us. What was his name? Oh yes, Tibor. Tibor had my Morrison's order and he was out making deliveries. And he did. We had to order it via Prime now because we could not get a slot any other way. So that's a pro tip if you're in the UK at least and you have Prime, Amazon Prime. They've hooked up with Morrison's for a delivery. And we did this thing with masks at the door, and he had masks and gloves on and we had masks and gloves on, and we did opened it half an inch, drop the stuff in and run. And he said, I will, you close the door, I'll put the stuff in. Luckily the order was bang on right, wasn't it? I had to change 3 items this morning and I didn't have my glasses on. This is a good one. Can you see it in the next picture? No, you can't. That Altrincham one wasn't long ago, was it? How long was that? 4 or 5 years?
Not long.
Did Mum go to it? She didn't like it, so it must have been more than 5 years. She didn't like the fact that the car park was very limited. They only gave you, I think it was it 2 hours or 3 hours, Mike? And then they halved it, so you only got 90 minutes. Well, to be honest, Tesco, seriously, you know what they're like. You can't get in and out of Tesco in 90 minutes. Not put stuff in a trolley. It'd be like a trolley dash. So yeah, that one's still there and it's still causing problems. So this replacement, we were having lots of fresh food. And obviously that's what we eat. And it's difficult to get hold of. The thing that they changed, I'd put in batten carrots. They had other ideas. So I just saw that the replacement was orange and tapped, yes, that's fine, send it. So I'm looking at what I'd agreed to later. The washing up liquid was fine, I just had a different brand. There was the batten carrots. What was it? Oh, the other thing was spinach, wasn't it? So one of those bags is full of spinach. The only difference with the spinach was it was a smaller bag. but not quite half the price. So this one that I'd swapped, I'd agreed to. It's like, why have I done that? It was actually, what was in it? Swede and... It was carrot and swede. And I looked and thought, oh, what have I done? Because it was for salad. So I thought, well, we'll just have to make soup with it. So we now have some food, including, brace yourselves, gluten-free bread. Decided to treat ourselves. We did. So I ordered more than that, but that was all that they had. So we've got 3 toasty loaves and a brown loaf. But look, we've got crumpets as well. I said to Mike, with it being the gluten-free stuff, people aren't going to go for that unless they're really gluten-free because it's so expensive. So I'm going to get some crumpets in for a treat. And even better, if you've never had these, and you probably wouldn't if you weren't gluten-free, the best muffins ever. Now, this is a rare treat for us to actually have something like that. But we decided, you know what, if we can get hold of it, we will. We now have 4 muffins. Can't wait to have one when we get a break. In the meanwhile, we were still short of dog food and toilet paper, which was when we went downstairs again. Nina had rocked up again. She was amazing, amazing. Not only did she get more dog food for the dog, today it was Mike's turn to be grateful to Nina. 9 toilet rolls arrived. She is fabulous. She was out on the hunt again. She dropped the toilet rolls off while we were flat out training people. We've not had time to think training people to use video conferencing tools. But we will look at it as we're training people to use video conferencing tools to prevent more people meeting up and then meeting our daughter, and who was being refitted for protective equipment because she's gearing up to man the front line on Monday in an ICU unit. So basically proving the point, it isn't what you do, it's the importance of what you do to the person that you do it for. And it was important that we had toilet rolls. It was important that we keep people away from Rachel and that we train people. So we're doing what we can do. Nina's a ninja shopper. So she was doing what she could do. The crumpets are lovely, Jonathan. They are really nice. Anyway, let's get on to the tech news. We have Affinity Beta apps. I'm charging Mike with finding the link for that because I did have it at one point, but it's been chaotic.
Affinity.
It's in the Affinity forum, you'll find it, Mike. There are new betas out, 1.8.3 for Affinity Photo, and later on, I do believe it was Tracy, who also pointed out that there was also one out for Affinity Publisher.
Affinity Designer Beta Forum.
Oh, well, it won't be Affinity Designer if it's Photo, will it? Poor Mike.
Photo.
Yes, the pink one, Photo. Anyway, if you can find the links to all of those, that would be brilliant, Mike. Just
Photo Beta on Mac.
That's the one. Just paste it in, although we probably have Windows users as well. Now, while he's doing that, I also noticed that Apple had been offering extended trials. Must admit, I didn't even know they did a trial for this. But they do a trial version of Final Cut Pro. That's unusual because you buy it through the App Store. And the App Store does not support trial versions. Well, not officially anyway. But they do a trial, and they're extending it from 30 days to 90 days. If you've already set and tried it, so you're halfway maybe through a 30-day trial. Thank you for that, Tracy. It will reset and give you a full 90 days. Now, they're also saying that they are constantly reviewing the situation. So it's going to really be a rolling trial based on circumstances. So if we all end up marooned at home for 6 months, it'll be a 6-month trial. They'll just carry on letting you use it. Obviously, it's not cheap if you fall in love with it and want to buy it. It's $300. When did that happen? Because when I bought it, it was $45. I will admit that was when the App Store was new, which was 10 years ago. Oh my God. I also got a remote desktop, and that was only about $50. I did pay more for Logic Pro. Talking of which, Logic Pro. Logic Pro also has a trial version. That again is 30 days. They are going to extend this to a 90-day trial. But the link for the trial is not live yet. Now, this is because I don't think there's actually been a trial version of Logic before. Now there is, and it's going to extend to 90 days, not 30. Again, it's going to be a rolling trial based on circumstances. So it could well end up to be longer than that, but it won't be any shorter than 90 days. So if you do want to try it, then you get the opportunity to try it. Can you just confirm the price of Logic for me, Mike, in the App Store? I've got it, and I paid around the 150 mark. I have no idea what it is now, but they have radically improved it, or they say they've radically improved it.
Logic Pro.
Yeah, Logic Pro.
200 quid.
£200, so it is more than I paid. But all Apple prices have gone up since then. So it's not a cheap solution, and it's not the best solution if what you want to do with it is podcast. There are better alternatives for podcasting, but potentially for music, that would be the way to go. You can see in there all the buses you've got, etc., and channels. I did used to use Logic Pro for podcasting, and I did set up all those channels and buses and multi-buses and all kinds of things. So yes, you could podcast with it. It has more features than you would need because obviously it's got all of the music features. But what it doesn't have are the dedicated features for podcasting that something like Hindenburg has. So that's why I use Hindenburg. Price comparison, I think Hindenburg Pro is actually more expensive than Logic. And when you look, if you put the two side by side, you would assume there was more features. Well, there are more features in Logic, but looking at the two of them, you would assume that Hindenburg was incredibly limited. It's not. It just doesn't have a very discoverable interface. But we've already had a request to do a whole podcast workflow thing, so we can do that. In the meanwhile, if you want to try that out, then you can get full 90-day trial. Right, another thing. Renee, you're quite right. They are following Serif's example. To be fair, Adobe did it first, but the thing was a nightmare. The thing was a nightmare. You have to go in, you have to have an account and a subscription, you have to go and cancel it, and then you have to wait for them to make you an offer. It's horrible. Why don't you just give everybody 90 days for free? But they did instigate something first. The next day, Serif did it, and now everybody's copying Serif. That's the plan. Right, so the Notion multiple import was mentioned last week. If you remember, I said, because I'm trying to go paperless. Well, I am paperless, that's the problem. I didn't have anywhere to write anything. But I promised I wouldn't forget because I'd written it on my hand. And I had. There you go. I really had. So let's go in and have a look at that. Oh, what mood are you in? Oh, you're not in a good mood. Fair enough. Right, so Notion. First of all, I need to be in Notion. Now, I'm having a quick think of the best way to demonstrate this. I could do it, couldn't I, with, where are you? I closed everything. If I try and do that, so let me get to have a demo area. Let's create a demo page so you can see it. Right, I've got a blank page. Let's bring it on board. So the only reason I'm doing that is I might run out. Yes, Graham is the Graham from Devon. I couldn't remember the name of your town, Graham. So if you can fill that in. We were talking about Bovey Tracy. Right, so I'm just creating a page here, a blank page. I'm doing it in my account rather than a demo account because my demo account, we've done so much with it, we're potentially pushing the 1,000 block limit. So that's why. Now, how did I actually do it? Having a rare old think now. If I duplicate a table, all heck will break loose. So what I'll do is I'll put in here demo import. Now, the scenario is we would have wanted to have a table. And in the table, we would have wanted to put some records. So although I've said demo import, right, what it actually is, did I have that as a page? I think I did. But never mind. Can we change that? Or can I do it here? Never mind, we'll just use it. Right, what we're going to pretend this is a journal. Okay, so we'll change that to, well, what we'll do is we'll put journal at the end so we can remember what it is we're looking at. Now, my journal, if you remembered, had a certain set of fields, but it wasn't that complicated. It was fairly basic. It is a full journal, but it was fairly basic. And let me get the list going so we can see it. Let's go into a table view. There it is. I'm bringing it across.
Did you do anything?
Did I do anything?
Out of the ordinary.
Nope.
It buffered a couple of times.
Nope, didn't do a thing.
Must be YouTube.
Must be YouTube, nothing to do with me.
Mm.
Come on, Vivaldi. Come on. Well, that's going well, isn't it? Now it's having a think. All I did was move something. That's not going well. Can I move it out of the way? Can't even move it out of the way. Oh, it's crashed. Fabulous. Okay, I'm going to get another browser. It didn't like that one very much, did it? Let's see what I can do with Microsoft Edge. I've still got my Amazon Prime order in there. Let me go to another browser because that one just crashed. And we'd not even started really, had we? All right, let's bring this browser on. So what I was doing was trying to show you my journal. So I'm trying to get it open in a page. I am trying to get it in list view, and then I will share it with you without crashing. Excellent. Right, so what I've got there is my journal table. The only 3 fields that are in any way significant is the name, the date, and the day. I'll scroll across, show you what else I've got. It hooks into a week number. It hooks into tags, a cover, events, meals, meetings, month select, etc. Okay, so there's a whole range of things there. But the business end of this is basically just this. Just these 3 fields. In fact, you could say 2. It must be YouTube. If it's buffering everywhere, it must be YouTube. It's not buffering here. I've got it at 40% CPU. Everything's quite quiet, to be honest, which is quite alarming. Quite alarming. I've just realised I've done something incredibly silly, Mike. You know when I went through that checklist? The other bit I forgot.
Turn the recorder on.
Turning captains here on. Oh no! I'll be able to piece it together later. It's not a crisis. It's not a crisis. Let's pretend it's not a crisis. Okay. I will need to do that. Bear with me while I fix my own stupidity. I do that. I do iMac, and away we go. Right. Now we'll have a local recording. Should YouTube really take a moment on itself? Right. I can piece that together. There's a demo. How do you fix your own stupidity? Right, so the thing with this is that makes it difficult. If you want to add 1 entry to your journal, or maybe a week's worth, you have to go through and you have to set everything up. It's time consuming. Now, sometimes that's not a bad thing, and I'm not being flippant when I say that. If it takes you a while to set it up, then make it part of your weekly review. And it becomes quite cathartic that you take your time and you get into a place of flow. But then sometimes what's going to happen is you'll be as busy as Mike and I appear to have been for the last 2 weeks, and doubtless Pete is, and poor Rachel. And you won't have the time to do that. It's not as simple as picking up a diary and turning over the page and everything's done for you. Nothing is done for you in Notion. You have to do it all. So sometimes it's actually quite handy to have everything there for you when you figuratively turn that page. So basically, how can you have lots of entries in a table like that without all the associated grief of doing it? That's the thing. That's what we're trying to solve. Now, you can see that I go back to the 1st of January 2018. And if I whizzed down here, so keep going, 2018, we're up to May. It should carry on going, unless I had it filtered, and I don't think I had it filtered. No, it's having another think. So we're down to September 2018. So if we keep going here, you can see we're going through 2019. We'll reach 2020. Now, I thought I'll just take it as far as the end of 2020, because obviously some of this stuff you can see, you start to see covers and events coming in, because these are the ones that I was actually using. So we're now into beyond here. Look, Mike's Easter holiday. Yeah, we'll get away. We'll go out to the kitchen or somewhere. Right, so all of these go through to 2020. But then I started thinking, oh, I'm not going to want to do this for 2021, am I? So what I decided was, let's have a try at importing it. So if we head in, you can see there, I've actually got the 1 day for 2021. So I've done the whole of 2020, and it's looking like I've got 1 day of 2021. Now, there's two ways I would want to work with this. I would want to work forward so I could just basically press the button and get 2021 in, but I also might want to backfill, and I might want 2017 in there. Now, there isn't a quick way in here to do that, and there is a couple of gotchas. So let's have a look at the field formats we've got. The first one is the name, and when I hover over that, that is the one that has the openers page on it. So I call that the click-through field. The next one says date, and it is a date. So it's a real date. When you click on that, it shows you the date field. So it's not a calculated date that's calculating from somewhere else. It's the actual date. The third one is calculated. You can see it's got the little sigma on it. And I do believe I can do that tonight. I'm going to show you that later. Right, so it is a calculated field. So when you click on it, it shows you that it's a formula, and you can edit the formula. And it's showing me the formula, so it's fairly simple. Right, so it needs that date field to calculate the actual day. Those are the three fields that if I could magically have those appear, it would be fine. But trying to do that is more difficult than it needs to be. So I set up a process for doing it. So what I'm now going to do is have a look what browsers I've got over here and what I've got open that I literally do not need. What was I thinking? I haven't got Firefox. I had to close everything. We'll try and do it through here. We'll try and do it all through one browser. This is Edge. It just happened to be open. Right. What I did was I went into my Google Drive. Oh, for crying out loud, let me get the password in again. How many times does it log me out today, Mike?
Plenty.
It's just having a moment with itself, isn't it? I'm just going to quickly switch you over to this so I can get this password in, because I'm going to have to bring one password up. And I've no idea what I've got that set to at the moment. Mike, do not let me forget to show the screen again. Right, let's go back to the Mac. Let's see if I can get it in on the other screen. Honestly, Google, I think Google's having a moment with itself. Right, I'm in. And everything's fairly decent, isn't it? All right, I think I put it in Notion, which would be in areas. Is Notion in areas? It is. No, I don't want to turn notifications on. Go away. Right, Notion Journal Creator. Right, this is the kind of thing I would make a changes log for. You can see here I've got Rev 1 that's been pensioned off, and I've got some exports. So I've already done 2018, 2019 and 2020. What I have not done is 2021. The reason that I'm starting in here and not starting in Notion and trying to duplicate in Notion, and you can duplicate in Notion, is doing it 1 or 2 or even a week at a time isn't really enough to give you a boost start with it. So I created this spreadsheet. Mine's a Google Doc. It doesn't matter what it is or where it comes from, but mine is a Google Doc just purely for speed, she said as it struggled. Right, there's the instructions. So I'll talk you through those. Given the time I haven't had to sort this out, I'm glad I've got my instructions. But basically what it's saying is you export a CSV from the spreadsheet. You merge that as a CSV into Notion, and then you do some magic. Now, I already have 2018, 2019, 2020, and I actually have 2021. Now, I need to explain the format of this before we go any further, because obviously you can see in here there's weirdness going on. What's she doing? Right. We already have that date in. We seem to have already imported it. But you'll notice that it says equals the text value of B2. And it formats it with a given format, which is that, and it adds an X on the end. What's she doing? Right, this is because, let's come out of that cell. We need a real date in there. So there is a real date in there. You'll notice it's an American format. My trial and error on this, and it probably took about 8 hours to get it all working. So it's an incredibly simple process. Don't concern yourself that it's not a simple process. It's a very simple process. Once you've worked out all the kinks, and that was what took the time, working out the kinks. If I put the dates in UK format, it puts some of them incorrectly and some of them incorrectly. So I would recommend, if you're going to follow this, use the Notion native date format, which is that one. That is completely alien to me, but it doesn't matter when it arrives at the other end. If we go back and look at that journal, everything's fine. Everything's fine. When you get to the 12th, 15th, you do not have 01/15/2018 because you format it at the Notion end. But at the spreadsheet end, use the American date. Right, so that's the actual date, and you put a date in there. Then you have all the dates going down like this. Now, I'm pretty sure when I did this, I thought I'd done it slightly different, but never mind. Right, so you put the date in there. If you put 2 dates in, so let's just delete some of these. That'll cause all kinds of havoc, as you see. But once you've got 2 in there, you can just pull it down and it will fill it in. You'll notice something's changing in the name field. Right, what is happening? Instead of me typing this lot in, I'm telling it in A2 to go across to B2, take the date value, put it in the format I want it in, which is day, month, year, and add an X on the end. You're wondering about the X, aren't you? That's another horrible workaround. There's no way that Notion will let me import something that could be interpreted as a date. So basically all the formats of dates are off the table, and have that field as the click-through field. So let's just go back so we can see that in journal. I want this to be the click-through. I want it that I click open on that field and it opens it up, and then I see everything else. That's what I want. And I want it called 01/01/2018 because I want the name of this item to be unique. Now, some people have started their Notion setup and they've put 01/01, 02/01, or 01/02, depending on where you are. They're not thinking ahead because a year from now you're going to have 2 pages with that name. So I wanted that to be a unique identifier. And I could not find a format that Notion would import and treat as text. It just will not do it. So my workaround was to persuade it to treat it as text, to put the text in I wanted, but follow it with an X. And that way, when it imports it, it will treat it as text. Obviously, that gives us a little bit of an extra step to do, but you'll have saved so much time you won't mind doing that bit. So that's all you need. I do have a 3rd column, and the 3rd column just says day, but there's nothing in it. That's because if you remember, in the journal, the 3rd day, the 3rd column, is just the day, and it's calculated. Right. So let's go back to this. The first step, as you saw in the instructions, now I would have an instructions page, which I do, and if I'm going to make any changes to this, I'd put a changes log in there on the first, even before the instruction, you would find the changes log. But the first thing is export as CSV from spreadsheet. So I'm going to export 2021. I'm going to select everything. So I've already done this in here, but I might, if I've got the time, I'll even do it twice. I'll show you how I did it. So let's select everything in there. Right. With it selected, I then want to export it. So if I go to File, and did I actually export it that way? What's the point? I said export, didn't I? I'm wondering if I actually did. I very may well not have done. You might be able to do it even faster than that. So let's select the first one and let's go and select the second one. That's the quick way to select it. So it's all selected. I think what I could actually have done was actually go into my text editor and put that there. And it looks like that's worked because I can see tabs here. So what that's done, it has exported it, but I did it with a copy and paste. And you've got the date. And as you move through, that's a tab and that's a tab. So I've got like a tab separated file. So all I'm going to do there is File and Save As. I will put that on the desktop. And this one was 2021. So that is really all I do. And I'll put CSV on it. And save it. There's all my notes that I sent to Mike. Boris has finished speaking. That was Monday night. I was relaying it to Mike. So let me minimise that. And let's get that out of the way. So here's my CSV file, which I can preview. Now, that doesn't look good. I have no idea why that's not working, Mike. It's not working. Is it shoved all that lot in one field, one column? That's not looking good. I'm going to open it up in Numbers and have a look at that. What's it doing to me? No, it's fine. It's just the way it's displaying it. What it's saying there is, I've got my name, date and day at the top. You can see the grey column on the left is the one that I want to be the click-through field. And next to that, you've got the date in the American format that Notion likes. So that looks all right in Numbers. So we've checked it. Right, next thing to do. Let's get back into Edge and do the magic bit, which is in here. So we're actually in my journal. Hopefully I've got a view. Oh, I wouldn't have, would I? All right, let's duplicate 2019. And let's put a view in for 2021. So there's my copy of 2019. Let's make that 2021. And save it. Now, obviously, I need to change the filter. I'm going to put an exact date in. It needs to be anything on or after the 1st of January 2021 until the end of 2021. So let's whip through there. You could type that in if it was further than that. It's on or before that. Now, that gives me one entry, which is that first one, which is good. Right, so next step is to use the file that I've got on the desktop and try and pull in everything for 2021 in one go, like magic. Now, there is a trick to this if you try doing it. Notice that the table I'm bringing it into already has data in it. It made sense to me when I was testing this, hence it taking all flaming day, to get rid of all of the data in it. Initially, I contemplated having one master journal table per year. Soon gave that idea up. But I thought, well, now I've tested it and I've got like rubbish entries in like that one, I'll delete it. Don't do that. If you do, it makes a complete mess of the import. Basically, what I discovered in testing it was you need to have a minimum of one record in there. Otherwise, Notion just doesn't seem to know what to do with itself. So I'm going to leave that where it is. Obviously, I've got a lot more entries than that. But then I'm going to go, and there's a lot of different ways you can do this. But if you go up here, you should find that you have a merge option. I'm not liking that there. Let me see if we have merge with CSV. There is an import option, but I found with the import option, it tends to put it in a totally separate table, and that doesn't work for me. So I want to merge this data, the existing data in the journal, with the data in the CSV. So I'm going to hit merge. I go to my desktop, where it is. No, not there, desktop. And pick 2021 and open it. Now, it needs first to upload it, then it needs to have a think about it, then it needs to process it. Eventually, and I must admit, many times I've thought at this stage, it's crashed, it's not doing it, it's failing. But no, it did it. As you can see, it's done it. So it's pulled it into the entire table. I've just got a view of 2021 on it, and you have all of the days for 2021. Right, good news first. It's pulled in the name. So there's like the 2nd of January, and it's pulled in the date, and the date is correct. As we scroll down, as I promised, the 15th, there's the 15th, 16th, 17th, they're all correct in the format that I want them. This one that had no data in it at all has actually now got data in it, as if by magic. That's because it's calculated data. So all I was doing was telling it that there's a placeholder here that I want to be replaced with data. That's the good news. You've got everything you need. You could, at that point, use it. But you can obviously think you're going to have some triage here. And the triage is, now I'm going to widen that a bit so the open button isn't hovering over the text. But what I do is, I click once, backspace, enter, enter, backspace, enter, enter, backspace, enter, enter, backspace. And I literally, that's not the way to do it. You need to press enter first. I literally will sit here. It doesn't take that long. And you can go faster than I'm going. I'm doing this so you can actually see it. But all I do is that. And I get rid of all the X's. Now, while I'm doing it, right, I'm halfway there at that point. That is the actual data that I want, just not with the X's on the end. Simple as that. But I took it a step further, because the next thing that would have been a bottleneck is I like them to have icons on them, because I like pretty things. So if we go back to 2019, you can see they've all got in here pretty icons, icons that match the calendar. Now, it's easy to do, so let's go back to 2021 and we'll pick the first one, because we've already got a first one. We've actually got two of those now. That was just there to show you what data format we were aiming for. But in here, I could go into there and open it up, and I could click on the add icon. It adds one automatically, but you can upload an image and then choose an image. Now, to choose an image, I need, let me see if it will just show me my recent. You're not going to, because I didn't pull anything in, you swine. Right, it is there. It's in, and it's in a logical place if everything was sorted properly. It's in areas. It's my Notion area. Notion. It's in my assets. It's icons. And it's calendar icons. So all I actually need to do is to go and find them. And that one was day 1, wasn't it? Or was it day 2? Now's not a good time to forget what day it was. It could be 1, it could be 2, I can't remember. Let's have a look. It was 1, it would be, wouldn't it? Okay, we'll go back and we'll change it then. Once you're in the right folder, the good news is it takes you back there and it remembers. So I've not clicked anything. It remembers which was the last one you pulled in. But that is too long-winded for me. Didn't like that. 365. 6 in a leap year. Not happening. So what I did was make it easier. Once I've taken the X off the end, I then go back and, you know, when you've got time and nothing else to do, I have a template for each day of the month and an empty one. And the only thing in the template is the right icon. And it's faster to do that. You don't even have to leave it open. You can go on to the next one. And scroll and 3 and come out of it and 4 and just apply a template to it. And the only thing that I have in the template is the icon. Now, if you've created a whole thing below the fold, then your templates may have more in than mine. But I was only interested in the icon just to get me going with it. And that was how I imported it. So you've actually seen it work. Let's go and create another view. We'll duplicate the 2020 view. So duplicate this. And go in and rename it. So we know it's 2022. 2022. Okay. And let's get these in some semblance of order. I'll lose the will to live. Apply the 2022 one, which shouldn't have anything in it. And to do that, I'd have to change the filter. So let's change the filter and move forward to the 1st of January, 2022. 1st of January. What mischief shall we get up to while Paul's disappeared? What shall we do, Mike? Shall move to another room? That'd be cruel. Oh, you can tell I'm going stir crazy. Okay, so I filtered that at that point and we're good to go. What I'll do, just to remind you of what format we're aiming for, is I'm going to take that one, which is not the right one. We'll change that to 2022 and we'll change the date in there because that is literally just a name. It has nothing to do with the date. It's the second field that actually has the date in. Right, that looks good to me. So if we switch over so 2022. Let's do the entire process again. It'll be much faster because I want to explain as I go. But what we will need to do in the journal creator is totally start again, because we don't have a 2022, do we? But what we can do is we can duplicate 2021. There's our copy of it. We'll make it 2022. We'll move it to the end and make it right. We will, in there, in here. Look at what this is doing. All right. We want that to be 2022. So we'll go and choose the 1st of January, which is a Saturday. Now, there is a way to do this that's easier, but I haven't tested it, so I'm not going to try it. What I would do with that one is I would do the same with the second one. So go into there and change that to the 2nd of January, 2022, which is a Sunday. Right. Then you don't have to delete the rest. You can just grab the first two and pull down. Obviously, the only exception to that is going to be what we're hoping to see at the end of this is that it's the 31st of December, which it should be. But if it's a leap year, you'll be a day out. So you need to think about that. But if you look at these dates we've got here, we now have here 2022. So once you've changed those dates in there, that's it. Don't need to do anything else. So let's do what I did before, which was I was holding Command Shift and then I clicked the down arrow and then the right arrow, and that selects the whole lot. Copy, go into a text editor, new file, paste it in, save it, and this one is 2022.csv. Put that on the desktop. You can actually bin that file now. You don't need that anymore. I must admit I did keep it. You saw before, if you go into the journal creator, I have my CSV stuff. So what I would actually do with that, the one we've imported, I would drag in there. Just saves me regenerating it if I ever need that again. I'd rename it to journal while we're at it. Okay. Right, back into Notion, where we're looking at 2022. On the table, click the three dots, choose Merge with CSV, go find the CSV, which is on the desktop, 2022, and click Open. And this is the bit where it takes a fraction of time. It needs to upload it, then it needs to import it, then it needs to have a look at it, configure it, etc., and pull it in. And it does it. You can tell the one that was there because that's got the icon and no X. I would then, I'd probably keep that one and delete the other one because it would save me playing around, wouldn't it? Just delete that one. And then do the same thing again. So I make that a little bit wider. I do tend to do them all at once, I must admit. But I tend to do it in like batches of like 1 month at a time and then come back to it and then do a month at a time. And that is only because I want those names to be dates. If you're quite happy to stick some random character in it, that's up to you. But I just wanted it to be dates. My journal is global to the whole of Notion. So as you can see from the number of fields that come across here, you know, everything pushes into it. So all my events, all my meals, everything is in there. So it's central, and I just want that to be unique. So the two passes you need to do, the way I've done it, is get rid of the X and put the icon in. But the icon is simple because you've already created a template for it, and the only thing that's in there is the icon. And it's as simple as that. So hopefully that will prove to be useful. I mentioned it in one of the Marooned episodes, and got very, very excited about it, didn't you? So let me know in the chat if that was useful for you. You can, of course, adopt exactly the same principle and do the same thing with other. You could import weeks, you could import podcast shows, you could import anything that way. The trick to the import is to always have not just a table defined, but have a minimum of one record showing. I don't know why it does that, but believe me, I was like, because the other thing is I was banging my head on a brick wall because what was happening was I thought, what if I copy and paste them in? Could do that. And sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. So I thought, whatever I choose to do here, it's got to be repeatable and predictable. So where I have a certainty that when I do it, it will work. Now, in a normal week, like this is so not normal, but in a normal week, I wouldn't have posted about 5,000 times on Facebook, and I wouldn't have had WhatsApp exploding and my iMessages exploding. And they do interrupt your flow because you're thinking, the way things are at the minute, I need to know about this. We actually got a message this week. One of our friends it's not looking good, to be honest. He sent the mail himself and said he was on a ventilator. They were putting him on a ventilator and it was unlikely he'd wake up. You can't miss messages like that. So this week, I've just not had time to finesse like I would normally. So I created that, and the last time I did it was probably about December. But always help your future self and put the instructions in it. So those instructions are fairly basic. Let's see if I can give you an idea of other things that I do and why it is so important to help your future self and put the instructions in. Do we have that file called subtitles, Mike? You know, the hideous thing. Obviously, I've got loads of things called subtitles. Not helpful. I'm looking for a file called subtitles. Let me do a search for spreadsheets. So type is spreadsheet, subtitle. That didn't work. Did I not call it subtitle? Was it markers?
Yeah, there's a markers.
It's a markers one, isn't it? That looks hopeful, doesn't it? How old is it? Let me sort by modified, last modified, and pick a new one. Right, what's that one? Oh, good. These are all 2018. I'm going to risk it that one of these is good enough. I've just seen the master. Hang on, there we go. Nope, I'm going to use the master. Basically, this is a spreadsheet that we have, and it's complicated to work out where the markers need to go so you can go to the precise place and play on a video. So we designed between us a way that it would work, and we needed to work it out. If you look at the times in column D, you have to work those out from the frames in column B. It's a nightmare. So I said to Mike, this is what I want. This is how I think it will work. Let's build a spreadsheet together. So we do. We've turned it into a master spreadsheet. Like that. In here, this is the input, and then you work through it. So you sit here and you put in the names of the chapters. You put in do you put in the frames or does it calculate it? You put in the frames and it calculates the time. So there's a hideous formula to calculate the time. But as you then work through it, once you've put all that information in, you obviously need to get that information out in the right format. Would that there were one format, but there's not. There is the Subler Basic format, the Subler OGG format, VTT, TOCYT, TOCJWP, all the calculations, there's my changes log, and a reference. So I need to think, okay, I want this for Subler, or I want this for YouTube. And I click on here. But there's the instructions with the red title on a yellow background. It tells me exactly what to select. So that's telling me to delete any unrequired data. So if there is unrequired data in there, delete it. In that one, there isn't. And then copy A1 to the end of the range in the Subler Basic sheet, which is this one. It even says the last cell contains the word wrap up. So I select that and then export it and save as text. But for this format, I need to do something wholly different. I mean, look at it. These are the same markers, just in a totally different way. And if you look here, I've got some that are blank. They're going to need to not be copied, or they could even be deleted. But what do I delete and where do I click? I can't remember. I built it 2 years ago. It's fine. Copy A1 to the end of the range and paste into a text editor. The last cell contains chapter name. Okay. So let's move down and see which one's it. The last one contains chapter name. So it's going to be that one. And that's how I do it. I always put the instructions. For the VTT, the instructions are there. For the TOC on YouTube, that's a simple copy and paste. And for that one, oh, even more complicated. But there will be instructions in there. And my changes log So if Pete's watching on catch up at any point, this is the changes log that I made as I was building it. And that way I can follow back and think, what was I thinking? You know, when something doesn't work, what did I do that for? I come back to the changes log and I look at it and work out what I did. So basically I'm showing you that, not for the content of it, just to show you that whenever you build something like this, which you're going to repeatedly use, even if it's just a simple thing like that, put your instructions in it, put a changes log in it, explain to your future self why you did what you did, and then you'll be able to repeat it. So tonight, I did not have time today. It had been on my agenda since 9 o'clock this morning. I did not have time to run through that. I can't remember what I did with it precisely, but future me is very grateful that previous me put that in, and then I was able to take you through it. Always love your future self. So, Kim saying excellent, she loves it. Excellent, good. That's all we need, that it helps somebody. And as I say, it doesn't have to be a journal. Could be anything. Could be anything. Right, let's get back over here and see what was next, because I have no idea what was next. We'll find out. Oh, freebies! We'll find out about freebies. Actually, I'm going to just check something in case that isn't what should have been next. Remember me mentioning post-it notes? You see, I totally forgot to put a slide in for that. I knew I was missing something. Right, forget the freebies. We're not going to do the freebies at that point. I'm going to show you that application that I talked about. Replacing Fantastical. Potentially. And you're still not in a good mood with me, fair enough. Right, Fantastical was indeed a fantastic application. But I'm not prepared to pay the subscription that they want. So the first thing I did was sit down and say, what is critical that it does? Now, I love the natural language input, don't get me wrong, but it's so expensive as a subscription on top of every other subscription. So I actually sat down and I made a list, and the only thing that was on the list, because I use Google Calendar anyway, was something that you're looking at right now. Can anybody see anything different on my computer than last time that you saw my computer? So we're not talking about those files there.
Oh, I was going to say that.
No, not those files. And I do actually have an application there that I'm demonstrating later, and it's not that either. And what's that? I have no idea what that is. I don't know. What icon is that? I don't know what that is, and I've no idea why it's showing me there. Never mind. Okay, so no, it's not those two icons. It's not those. Anything else then? Because there's not much on the screen. Has anything else radically changed that you would look at and say, oh, that looks different than last week? Because whenever Mike and I are doing virtual training, one of my pet peeves, and it makes me laugh, so it's a semi-pet peeve. You're talking about the latest and greatest thing that you want them to learn, that they need to learn. And what do? What's that icon third from the left? And you're like, it's not relevant to what we're talking about. No, but I want to know. So I thought maybe as you were watching, you would have noticed that something's radically different. Anybody noticed anything? Let me know. Lola's voicing her displeasure again at being downstairs. Graham says the date. Well, the date is usually there because Fantastical has the date, doesn't it? So I always had the date displaying and I always had it in colour. But I'm going to give it to Graham for that one, because that is not the icon from Fantastical. That is the icon from a completely different application. Anything else that's different? So one point to Graham. If anybody else can get the next bit, I'd be surprised. There is something different in there. Something very different. I shouldn't have eaten that stuff. I shouldn't have put garlic salt on my dinner because now I want to drink. So while I'm having a drink, anything else? Graham's right so far. I've now had a drink. I don't know where I've put my water bottle. Nobody's got anything to say. Okay, I'm going to have to tell you then. Right, I always have the time showing, unless I'm making a video. I only ever have the time displaying as hours, minutes. I don't ever have the seconds displaying. The Fantastical icon is in my menu, but I just love the icon. I've always loved the icon. I talked about an application. This was on Marooned. I talked about an application I used to have, and it was calendar clock, and that's all it did. It put an icon up there. 4 rectangles. No, the 4 rectangles are actually zeros, Neil. But all of that will be revealed after Mike's bit. No, it's the time. That's not coming from where it normally is. If we go in and we put... no, not that one. Let's do the system thing and do it from there. In here, we have time and date somewhere, don't we? Datey, timey, datey, date and time. There we go. And you have an option to show it in the... to have the date and the time in the menu bar. I never had the date because I didn't like it. It's too long-winded. But I did have the clock, and there's no tick in that, so I haven't got a clock. But you can see a clock. Ah! If I turn that on, I've got 2. So that clock is not coming from the system anymore. It's coming from the magic new app. So let's have a look at the magic new app. Now, Mike needs to go and find it. I can't remember if I managed to get the link in for it, Mike. I may have done, I may not. So I'll show it to you. I'll show it to you. Now, the reason I was doing this was not to replace Fantastical. Which is strange, isn't it? I was going in here and I put the word clock in, and what I was looking for was...
Scenes. Scenes.
That's the one. Right. What I was actually looking for was one of 2 things. I wanted a large clock for my desk. I decided I was buying one from Amazon. A big, red radio station clock. Until it went on like 3-month delivery, and then I wasn't buying one. So I went off to look for one, and I started looking through here. And obviously in here, as I start looking for clock, you can see I probably tested the majority of these. This one I've got installed, that says open. A lot of the other ones say download. But there is one that I had already bought. It's very inexpensive, and it's called The Clock. And I wanted this for a totally different purpose. So if we go into it, it's $4.99. That's with... Now, is it still $4.99, Mike? He's going to check for me. Because once you've bought it, you can't see the price. It's... For a start, it's got 30% off right now. For the second thing, these are...
$6.99.
$6.99. Okay, well, it must be $9.99, then reduced to $6.99. A lot of these things were made 5 years ago and they've not been updated since. This one was updated a month ago. So I went in to have a look at it. And I was blown away because this did not do what it used to do. Or I should say it didn't do only what it used to do. What it used to do was that. It used to have time zones, and you could have clocks for the time zones, and that was it. Now, I wanted that feature. That was what I went off looking for. But what I found blew me away. I thought, have I not had to pay for this update? Because it's fantastic. That is literally all it used to do, but now it does a lot more. So you can see you've got this view, which has your time zones listed, and you have calendar access across the top. You also have this view that's going to allow you to schedule meetings with rolling time zones like that. Oh, it's amazing. I was blown away. Absolutely blown away. When I started looking at exactly what it could do, I thought, oh my word, it could potentially replace Fantastical. So let's have a look at it. Obviously, it's already open. So if I click on it, there it is. That is it. The only thing I've done in terms of configuration, it looked like that when I started. So I had my UTC, which is Universal Time, which is where we are, Greenwich Mean Time. I've got Paris, which is an hour ahead, and I now know Berlin is also an hour ahead. Cupertino and Singapore. So those are the ones that it gives you. But I thought, that's no good. I need Sydney. I need Sydney for a start. There are people joining us from Sydney, so I definitely need one for that. And Spain. Now, I know it's the same as Paris, but that's not the point. We haven't got anybody from Paris. I wanted to say Spain. So there's some of the things that you can do. But I spotted this calendar across the top and thought, is that just for show? Or can you do something with it? And then I noticed that you could extend it. You can also see there's dots on them. Those dots are days that I actually have appointments. And obviously, I've got loads of appointments. You can go forward and backward through your calendar, and you can go to today. So those 3 buttons in the upper right are for doing that. You'll see here it says all day. So your all day appointments appear there, and it's still do not copy and paste week. Now, that do not copy and paste week refers to something Neil's mentioned when he says he uses BusyCal. I use BusyCal as well. I loved BusyCal until I got into an argument with support for not supporting me. But I still have BusyCal there because there's nothing like it for changing multiple appointments. The icon isn't really what I want, and I loathe the interface. They've made the colours so muted, I can barely make out one from the other. At the point I was arguing with them over that, I was moving from iCloud calendars to Google Calendar anyway. So I just use Google Calendar in an app called MailPlane. But I still wanted that icon at the top, and it would be nice to have something hanging off that icon that was useful. So if I could see all of my appointments, that would be cool. If I can fold that up, that would be cool. And if I can have these time zones, even better. Fabulous. The weekends are in red. The time zones themselves have little dots on them. And the dots are a traffic light system. They go from red through amber through to green. So at the moment it's saying, red means, yeah, these people are in bed, leave them be. These people haven't got up yet, leave them be. But in the US, you could do that. So you could call somebody in Cupertino. So that's what the colour coding system is. Then you can go into your preferences. But you'll see before I do that, across the bottom, there's a slider. So let's say we're trying to work out what would be a good time for everybody. So let's try and get green in here for a meeting. And now you're scheduling ahead to Saturday. And you can see they're all red, but let's see if we can get some into green. Oh, come on, at least some into green. I'm moving backwards, aren't I? All right, there we go. Universal's in green. I don't know why France wouldn't be. That's strange. But basically what you're doing is finding out before or backwards there. And it's giving you times. And they're all moving together. So you can see that on the 28th, when it's 4:45 my time, it's 10:15 in Cupertino, and it's 1:45 in the morning in Singapore. So I thought that would be even more useful if it was Sydney and Spain. So that was when I came down here. Oh, the other thing to think about is when you've done that, if you just double click on, I double clicked somewhere, that's it. You double click and it takes you back to where you were. You move that and it takes you into a zone. Double click, takes you back. Right, so in there, you've got all of the options. So first off, because this was why I was loading it up in the first place, you can add a world clock or delete a world clock. So I'm going to delete Singapore. Don't care what time it is in Singapore. Right. But the other, yeah, I'll delete Paris as well because I'm really not interested. Cupertino might be handy. It might be handy. So what I'll do there is now add a world clock. So choose a country, a city. So let's put, if I could spell it right, Sydney, Australia. Right, I'm now shouting out anybody in Sydney, Australia. Is this the right time? Is it 19 minutes past 9 in the morning in Australia? Hopefully it is. Right, and I'll add another one. Now what I'm thinking is, can I move them? I can move them. That's good because I want mine at the top. I don't tend to call it UTC, I must admit. I'd probably put Manchester because I know I'm UTC. I might put Manchester for that. But let's put in Tracy. So what city should I put in, Tracy? Tell me which city. I'll go there. I'm assuming Barcelona, but I could be totally wrong.
I was going to say Barcelona.
Well, we'll see, won't we? I'll add Barcelona. I'll take it away if it's not the right one. Right. The Sydney time's correct. Excellent. Because now I'm going to be able to track when you're up and when you're not up, or when you shouldn't be up, unless you work my hours like that. Right, so
it's going to be 9 hours next week, not 11.
It will be. It will. Because we're
10 hours.
We're going forward.
10 hours.
Yeah. We're going forward. So let's put Barcelona there and Sydney underneath. Right, so we see Barcelona is just a little bit ahead. Where else do we say? Shout out if you're from somewhere else, let me know. Ohio, that's what I need. Ohio, I need some American ones. Let's see if we can actually put Ohio. Or whether it wants... It should find Ohio, shouldn't it? It didn't like it. What's the biggest city near you? that I can find, Paul, that might work.
Paul's not there, is he?
Thought he'd come back.
Oh.
I thought he'd come... Well, if he hasn't, can anybody else tell me a big city near Ohio? Cupertino's the correct time. Excellent. That's good to know. What's near Ohio?
Texas.
Is it?
Is it near Texas?
I've no idea. My geography, they had to take me out of geography. I wasn't good with geography. Tell you what, let me go and get Edge and we'll have a look. Someone's going to know. Someone's surely going to know. Right, let's move this over. Let's try Ohio. Right, US state, Midwestern. Detroit.
Cities in Ohio.
I'll have a look. Somebody must know. Columbus! Right, okay, let's try putting that in now.
Canton.
Yeah, Columbus should do, because that looks like it. Yeah, and Cincinnati's, that's on the border. Cleveland, I've heard of Cleveland. I've not
There you
heard
go.
of
Kim's put some in for you.
Denver, Colorado. Right, I'm gonna choose Columbus. Right, let's try that one. And it would help if I was in the right place typing it, wouldn't it? Let's try Columbus. Surely it's got that one. Columbus! Way! Excellent. Right, so I've added that. Let's put that one down there. That'll do. Well, we want it near there, don't we, actually? Cupertino. There we go. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you all. Why did I think... You said Texas. That's totally the other end of the country, Mike.
That's it. Yeah.
Well, yes, considering that's Niagara Falls.
Well,
and we know that that's Canada, isn't it?
What do I know about US?
See, look, Toronto. God almighty, Mike. Mike's down here. On the border with Mexico.
You're cheating. You've got a map in front of you.
Your geography is nearly as good as Donald Trump's. Would you like to build a wall there as well? That wall's looking like a better idea by the second, however. Okay, so we've got it. Have we got anybody else in a different time zone that I've not got? Let me know. Right, so is that right? I think it is, isn't it? We've now got an amber one. So basically the Columbus one is you are out of office hours. But not by far. They're not asleep yet. So that's a kind of evening thing. But I find that really useful, the colour coding thing that goes on. So that's what we've got for the time zones. Now, obviously, if I wanted to think, so tomorrow, if I push this up to Saturday and I push it all the way through to 7 o'clock, that's when Marooned at MacBites headquarters is happening. So it's not bad in Barcelona. More than acceptable, I think, in Columbus and Cupertino. Sydney, bit of an issue. Yeah, might be a smidgen on the early side. What will that be next time? I have problems with... which is that one? I think it's mountain time. That one state doesn't move on and the other does. So you've got a mismatch between mountain time. But if you put it in by city, then you don't have the same problem, do you? Now, if you look underneath as well, this is so cool. Obviously, UTC, it's saying it's the same day. Barcelona's the same day. Columbus, Cupertino. But when you look at Sydney, it says it's the day after. So it actually tells you that it would be the Sunday morning rather than the Saturday night. Yeah, it's Central Time and Mountain Time I have trouble with. I've got this one place and I wish I could remember where it was. It's down Texas somewhere. And this state don't change their time and it doesn't match. So I get confused with those. But putting the city in solves the problem as long as I know where the city is. So I can at least push forward and see that if I put it on at that time, those would be the times. That might lead me to think, well, what if it was 8 o'clock? That's not bad. It's still not too late in Barcelona. We're still okay in the States, and it's much better in Sydney. So that's the kind of sort of things you can do and work out with it. And then double click when you want to go back to the time. Now, in terms of replacing, so I'm going into the settings now, which have opened up, she says somewhere. Have they opened up at all? No, I've crashed it. Oh, for crying out loud. Right, are you back? Are you back having to think about it? Come on. Wanted the settings, preferences. There we go. There they all are. Right, so on general, you've got whether you want it started at login which obviously I do because it's providing me my time and my date in that menu bar. Then there's the open the main interface, and I have that set to all 4 extra keys and the F. Now the F is historical because the F is for Fantastical. So basically, if I close that down there and I do that, I can toggle it on and off with the shortcut that I put in that window there. That one. And let's turn that on. Right. The clock window is attached to the menu bar. And at the moment it is. If I click on that, it's actually attached. But you could say detached from the menu bar. And now it can be moved and left somewhere and used for reference if you're, like Mike, trying to coordinate between Sweden, Wilmington, where's the one?
UK.
UK, is it China?
China.
Yeah, all over the place. South Africa? No one in South Africa?
Yeah.
So you could leave that open while you're discussing everything. Couldn't type upside down. Loving that, Deb. Right, so you could do that with it. You've also got in dock mode or in dock mode without a menu bar, but that would never work for me. Right, you can display, at this point there's no limit to the number of clocks that you could use. And there's no limit on the meeting planner world clocks that would be displayed. But you could set a limit on them if you wanted to, so that option is there for you. Then you have the time format, which is, do you want it digital or do you want it analog? So let's just switch it to analog, and it means this in up here, which for me, no, that's not going to work. What I did try to do, which didn't work at all, was I actually thought, well, I want to turn off the time. You know, I don't want to see this. Not that one. Yeah, I just wanted to turn the time off, and it was having none of it. That was when I decided I would show it the other way. Now, my problem is there, I actually want that displayed on the other side, so I'm going to have to fiddle around with it until I can actually get it to do that. Now, if I click on custom format, there's actually a link that will take you out to the website, and you can have it set up in any kind of format that you like, anything at all. So that was the options you had there. As I say, the only one I couldn't find was to actually turn the time off. No, I couldn't find a way to do that. Maybe it's there, maybe it's not. Right, the next one is the appearance. So what do you want it to look like? What theme do you want for it? And that's talking about the window there. So I kept with that one, which is a sort of very deep brown, but there's a white one, there's a grey one, and there's a very black one. So I just left it set to that. I didn't find that offensive. That was fine. Then there's the menu bar highlight. So at the moment, I've got it open, so it's highlighted. But you can actually have it just set to text, or you can have it set to none. You can use the colour or have it black and white, and you can have the moon on there. Yeah, no. Right, then you've got the world clock options and the complications. So you can see here, let me just dock that back over there. And we'll have that, where do we put that? Where was that disappeared from? Attached to the menu bar, there we go. Right, you basically are doing it where you decide what the square looks like for each clock. So if you wanted it analog, which was the way it used to look, the last time I downloaded it, it looked like that. That's not that clear to me. I'd have to squint. Obviously, if it's in the evening, it goes black, but that's not the point. So I would have that digital. That's far easier to read to me. Your complications are what you have in the top right-hand corner. So you could have business hours, which is the dots, or you could have none. Then you've got what you have in the bottom left, which I have today or yesterday. And in the bottom right, I've got the country. You don't even have to have anything if you want, and there's a whole range of things that you could choose. So you could see when their sunset, sunrise was. You could have it in the 24-hour clock. You could have it in the 12 clock. You could have it as an offset from somewhere else. So up here, it's Pacific daytime plus 7 hours. So if you wanted it to have an offset, you could actually choose the offset that you had it from. I thought that was amazing. Must admit, did think that had potential, but I left it set to that. And in the bottom left, again, you've got a whole range of options. But I went for today, yesterday, because that's very useful in Australia, knowing at what point things are changing. Then you've got how the analog clock looks, or whether it's a world map, etc. Whether you have the wide digital clock. So I've got it set to big hour. Let's change that back to original. You only see that on the analog, the faces, which we're going to come and have a look at. Now, the next thing is the calendar. And I choose to see the week numbers because you know I have my week numbers in Notion. I've selected the system calendar. I've got the quarter starting from January, but if your quarter started differently, you could set it differently. Just choose the month the quarter start from. I've chosen to start the week as the regional settings, but you can actually choose the day if you want to. Then there's the format of the system calendars, the actual calendars themselves. So I've got up here my Google calendars. I do still have iCloud, but you'll notice the only one that's in there that's turned on is family. And that's because the rest of the family, Rachel et al., Rachel and the other mother and father, all use iCloud calendars. So I've left that there just for that. But the majority of mine are in here. Thus. So if I can turn off a few of these, like we don't want to see that one, turn that one off. We will have the holidays and obviously the bin calendar, most important. And you can see what's coming up next as well, which is this bit where it says do not copy and paste week. So that's where you specify your calendars. Then you've got a few utilities. So there's a take a break option. So you can choose to show that in the menu. So you can see the little break symbol up here. And it basically forces you, reminds you to take a break every now and then. I turn that off. There is a reason for that. I'll explain that as we move on. But you can even make it Pomodoro style if you want. The difference between standard and Pomodoro is the standard one will let you work for 30 minutes and then suggest you take a 2-minute break. The Pomodoro one, you will be able to configure, if you turn that on, how many short breaks and what the short break is and whether there's quotes on the screen, etc. So much more of a Pomodoro approach to it, where you have a longer break after a certain number of work sessions. You have accessibility options in there to change the menu bar size and to enhance for colour blindness or any other things you want to change. The widgets that it's talking about are the widgets that you would see if you went into your control centre from the dock icon up there. Not the dock, the menu item. And then you can back up and restore, and I've chosen to back up to Dropbox. Now, that's also good as far as it goes. Right, so what that means is, if we were to double click in here, like that, you can see what you've actually got. And if you click on one of these, double click on these will take you to your system calendar, whatever you have set in your system. It will open up the calendar. So it's not as fully fledged as Fantastical. You certainly, I've not actually found a way to add something, but to me, the power of it is in letting me look at it. I'm quite happy to use another calendar. I'm thinking of that subscription and how much it was. So I'm quite happy for that. I think that's okay. And you can close that. Now, that's all well and good as far as it goes, obviously. But this meeting business, that had great potential as far as I was concerned. So if I go into the settings again, and we were talking about having this open all the time. So at the moment it's attached to the menu bar, detach it from the menu bar, and then put it where you're over there while you're having a meeting. But this is where it comes into its own for meetings. Grab the corner, stretch it out. Now you can find the meetings in all the zones in all the times. So it's displaying to you in green when is the optimum for the meetings. Now obviously, as you can see here, we haven't got a zone that's green for everybody. Sydney's the problem, isn't it? Your green doesn't match up with our green too well. Let's have a look what time that would be. Now that's if you want to extend the meeting time. Your other option is to grab it at that end, and we should be able to move it. Should be able to slide it. There we go. I am sliding with my mouse. That one's not bad. It gives us 3. But I didn't really want to go that far, did I? So let's take it back. Not through May. Come on, we don't want May. Can you imagine where we'll be in May? I have no idea. But any day will do. There we go. That gives you 3 if you were to put it around that point, doesn't it? And you're seeing whether it's the same day, the next day. So all of your calendars will appear. It's got your full calendar across the top. It's got the week number. You can whip to today by double-clicking it. You can see it was episode 12 today. So all your calendars will be there, and you'll be able to select them thus, or deselect them like that, and find a good time for your meeting. Deb says you had to run away from Harvey. He's just coming from shop. Yes, leaving him in the garden and delousing with a hose pipe. That seems to be the latest and greatest way of dealing with it. I must admit, with the delivery man today, I said to Mike, don't open the door. Talk through the letterbox. In fact, this is a techie story that we didn't cover. We didn't mention this. Remind me to mention it. Shall I mention it now? I'll mention it now.
Depends what it is.
It's about the guy who we helped with his email. It's still working, so he's a happy boy. And he had tried to get somebody else to help him with his email. But the person in question is under quarantine. And he shouldn't have been out either. I presume they live close to each other. He took his iPad to the other person's and posted it through the letterbox. And the guy had a dabble with it. It didn't work and posted it back. And he took it home and washed it before he used it. The world's gone mad and we've gone mad with it. But I think this is a really good way to visualise the time, and it gives you a much better idea if you are scheduling meetings. I can see Mike sat there with this trying to work out whether that would work or not for a meeting. So I was actually looking for this to do that with it. I wanted to put in it here the time zones of all the people who join us, all of the MacBites family who join us in Marooned. So I know whether it's good time, bad time. And I don't like asking, like, what time is it where you are? For the 40th time, because I can't remember. Now I don't need to. Now I've got you all in there and I know. So I'm really liking that. That was the only reason I installed it. I wanted not even that view. I wanted that view. And I wanted that hanging off the icon. That's all I wanted. But I found so much more. It didn't used to integrate with your calendars. It didn't have a meeting thing. It didn't have an offset. It didn't have traffic lights. It was very, very basic. It's a useful app. If you are time challenged or dealing in time zones, and let's be honest, who isn't dealing in time zones these days? That is something that I will cross-reference later when I look at the Virtual Trainer Toolkit, but I think Jonathan might have nodded off again.
I was just going to say that.
Klaxon for Isaacs. Oh, poor lamb. He has been working he's been at home as long as we have. Mind he's got a heck of a view over Manchester. At least he can see what's going on. Right, so I will close that. You understand our dedication. I do understand your dedication, Neil.
What Deb's just put reminds me of when I was at infant school, which for those who are not in the UK, is when you're about 6 years old. And we had an Australian lad in our class, and the teacher said something about it'd be politically incorrect these days, standing on your head, and he didn't get it.
Right, let me do the freebies. 2 very quick freebies, but very useful if you're in design. And then I'm going to hand over to Mike for some VBA magic. Right, these are 2 I've never mentioned before, so I went and had a look at them today. You can never have too many stock sites. So this one's called Stock Vault. They all look the same, don't they? I am hopeful, though, that they do have different photos, different images and design stuff that you can download. So that one is Stock Vault. Michael put the links in because I did manage to put those in. And the second one is Pick Jumbo, which I vaguely remember hearing about, but I don't think I've ever actually used. So there is a premium system as well, but there are also some freebies. So just 2 more stock sites for you to add to your burgeoning collection. I'm actually thinking that one down there looks like the background that we used in Zoom. So they're very useful for Zoom backgrounds these days. They would work very, very well. Right, so I am now going to hand over to Mike. Hopefully this will all work seamlessly. And let's see what magic he can create with creating an automated table of contents. I wonder if Pete's back yet. Get the backstory to this.
Pete said he'd watch later and catch up.
Yeah, but Pete's got to catch up on the last 6 months pretty much.
True. We don't need to do Mary Had a Little Lamb, do we?
Not if they can hear you, no.
No, well, they should be able to hear
I'll
me.
just pass over your desktop and boom,
Because
you'll be able to. It'd be magic.
It is magic.
It's magic.
Right. Can you see my screen?
I'm hopeful they can.
Right.
Because
Perfect.
that's what it says broadcast.
Okay, I'll crack on in that case. Yeah, what I'm going to show you is something that I built for Pete earlier today, although I'm not going to use the same actual file example, but the concept is the same. And what Pete has is he has an Excel file with a bunch of tabs. So I've just used countries, UK, US, Spain, as you can see there. But it could be absolutely anything. It could be product names. In Pete's case, I think it was policies, wasn't it? Is that what it was?
I do believe so.
So whatever it is, you've got a bunch of tabs there. And what he wanted was to automate. Well, he didn't actually specify automating, but I gave him two options. He wanted to have a table of contents on a separate sheet with a bunch of links, and each link linked to a different sheet. So I gave him two options. I said, can either do it manually or I can automate it for you with VBA. So doing it manually, what you would do is you would go to a cell, and I just said we'll start in A1, type some text in there. Doesn't have to be the name of the sheet, but logically it would be. And then go to that cell and go to Insert Link. Choose Place in this document and choose the name of the sheet, and then click on OK. So now when we click on that link, it takes us to the UK sheet. It's taken me to A1 there. If I go back and do it again, it's taken me to A1 again. So it does default to A1. It doesn't matter where you'd left your cursor, because normally when you switch to a sheet, it remembers where you were. So I'll do that again for a different sheet. I'll do that for the Australian sheet, seeing as we've just been talking about it. So type Australia in there. Again, it can be anything, but makes logical sense to use the same name as you have on the tab. Go to Insert, go to Link, choose Place in this document, choose the sheet name that you want to jump to, click OK, and now whenever you click on A2, it takes you to A1 on that sheet. So that is one way of doing it. Let's get rid of those. But obviously what that means is if you've got 100 sheets, you're going to be there for a pretty long time typing in the names of the sheets and then setting up the hyperlinks. And then if you want to add a new sheet, you're going to have to do that manually. So what I decided to do was automate it. And I automated it using VBA, which is Excel's macro language, programming language, automation language, call it what you like. So if I go to the Developer tab and click on Visual Basic. Now, if you don't have the Developer tab visible, you can either make it visible by going to File, Options, Customize Ribbon, and put a tick in the Developer box there, or you can just press Alt F11. Alt F11 is the keyboard shortcut which switches you to the VBA editor, and you don't have to have the Developer tab visible to do that. When you switch to the VBA editor, what you have is in this case, we have a macro or module, as it's called in VBA terminology. And we know that that's a macro because it starts with sub and ends with end sub. The macro lives in a code module, and the code module is called module 1, and we can see that at the top there. The module lives in the modules folder. The modules folder lives in the project, and the project belongs to the file. And you'll notice that it's an XLSM file, not an XLSX file, because it's an Excel file that has a macro in it. So an XLSM file is a macro enabled file. So here's my macro, and to show you how it works, I'm going to go back into Excel and go to Developer Macros. Now the keyboard shortcut for that, just in case you don't have the Developer tab visible, is Alt and F8. So you go Developer Macros or Alt F8, click on the name of the macro that you want to run, there could be several there, and click Run. And what it's done is it's basically looped through all the worksheets from the first one to the last one in order. It ignores the one called TOC and it grabs the sheet name, lists it in a cell, and automatically makes the text a hyperlink. So if I just randomly click on USA, what's happened there? That's not worked. Let's go and have a look at the code. Why hasn't that worked? What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you something that I did for Pete. I have no idea why that's not worked because it worked in rehearsal.
Always does. Best demos do.
Does. Anyway, what I did for Pete was I developed the code away from his file. So I just created a sample file like this, just with some random sheet names. I just called them sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3, sheet 4, etc. I then went to the Visual Basic editor. I inserted a module because you don't get one by default. So I clicked on Insert Module and that created a module. And then I typed up that code. And what that code is doing is it's creating a variable to represent the worksheet. It's then going to the TOC sheet, so the sheet that I've called TOC, which is that one there. It's then going to A1 and selecting everything from A1 to the last cell in column A and deleting it. So that means that if Pete adds another sheet, if I go and add another sheet, say we'll have France. If I then rerun the macro, so go back to the TOC sheet, rerun the macro, it's now regenerated the list. And that's what Pete wanted. He wanted to be able to have an extra sheet added, and it rerun the macro and it regenerates the table of contents. So that's what that bit does. Then it goes back to A1. This is still on the TOC sheet and basically loops through all of the sheets. It picks up the name of the current sheet and sets it to be the contents of the cell. And for each sheet, if the sheet name is not TOC, then it creates the hyperlink and then moves down one row. Otherwise, it just remains on the current sheet and the current cell. And the reason it remains on the current cell is because if you were to run the macro in slow motion, then it would actually put TOC into A1 and then it would move down to the next row. So I was getting it to overwrite TOC with the name of the first sheet. But what I did, as I say, is I developed that on my own demo file, but then I needed to get this code to Pete, and then he needed to get it into his file. Now I could have just said, I'm going to copy this code, stick it in a text file and send it to Pete, and then tell him to create a module and then copy and paste the code. But there's an easier way than that, particularly for somebody who's not a coder, and as Pete said, he's a self-confessed non-coder. Once you've written the code, if you go to File, you can then export the module. So I've already done that. You give the module a name. So I've already done that. If I close this file down, and what you end up with is a text file, but it's got a BAS extension. So you can open that up. I didn't mean to do that. You can open that up with Notepad. And there it is. So that is what an exported module looks like. It actually is the code in text format with this extra line at the top. Now what I'll do is I'll create another worksheet. In fact, I've got another worksheet set up, worksheet 2. This is a standard Excel file, XLSX file. It's got the same worksheet names in there plus the TOC. So imagine this was Pete's file. I'll go to Developer, Visual Basic, and then I'll import that VAS file. And that creates the module. And then I will run the macro. Developer, macros, run. And there we go. So I can give anybody that file. If you want that file, you can have it. I can make it available. And all you need to do is import it into your Excel file, and then anytime you run that macro, it loops through all of the worksheets. You'll have to make sure that you call your table of contents sheet TOC, because I've hard coded that in. But other than that, it will go through all your sheets and assign a link to them. I wonder if this is working. No, that's not working. I'll sort out the problem before I make the macro available to you. But apart from that, that is what I did for Pete this afternoon. So, do we have any questions?
Nope, don't see any.
No. Okay. Right.
I'm reading the joyous news that the government are building a temporary morgue for 12,000 bodies at Birmingham Airport.
Really?
Lovely. So, I feel good now.
So I'm doing my Excel bit and you're reading the news.
I was relaxing. Come on, I'm not stopped all day.
It's all right. I do that when you're doing your bit.
Really?
Yeah.
How now it's all coming out?
Apart from when I take Lola out.
When you don't care at all.
I've got a confession.
Go on.
On the way to take Lola out, I stopped at the fridge.
Really?
Had a piece of Toblerone.
Really?
Right, I'll hand back to you.
Kim's said, is it because the sheet's empty?
No, that shouldn't make a difference.
I see, it does in Notion. You've got to have something in Notion or it gets giddy. Right, okay then. I've got a sort of file on there, which I'll endeavour to shift and then bring back on.
Are you going to take over again?
I will, in a second.
Right.
All in good time.
Because otherwise they'll see my workings going on again.
Oh, really?
It's all right. All I'm going to do is stop Camtasia.
Yeah, at least you remember to start it.
Oh, yes. which I didn't do until you said it.
What's AbleBits Data, Mike?
AbleBits Data is an add-in. I was going to say you haven't got my screen shared. AbleBits Data.
I can get back to you very quickly. There we go. We're back to you.
Are we? We're back to me. AbleBits Data is an add-in that I bought. They sell quite a number of add-ins. AbleBits.com, I think it is. This one's a random generator. And I used it to generate random numbers and random dates for my demo files. I just thought it was quicker than just doing rand between and stuff like that.
Right,
so
okay.
that's what AbleBits Data is, Neil.
Hey, back to me again.
I'll do a demo of it next week.
He's working ahead. What can I say? Right, okay, straight back into the Virtual Presenter Toolkit. As we expected, no matter how much coffee Jonathan gets up himself, he's asleep by 9:30.
Or down himself.
Or indeed down himself. Never mind. Good morning, Jonathan. Right, you mentioned presenting virtually. So what we took from that, after a quick discussion, was all the tips and tricks that Mike and I have deployed over the last 20 years, condensed into a short session. We started having a look at it. there was quite a lot of it. Obviously, it's incredibly relevant at the moment. We've had people who have been saying, like, what do you do it online for? It's not the same, for the last 5 years. And we've just smiled and grinned and said, it's okay. They'll understand one day. Well, today is the day. Now we have people ringing us saying, can you show me how the Zoom thing works? So there's more to it than just, I've got Zoom, now I'm an expert. How many people are like that have we had, Mike? About 900. I've done one Zoom. Yes, I'm an expert now. I'm going to put that on my CV. Good luck with that. There's a lot to it, but it doesn't have to be difficult. It's just a very broad subject. So what I decided to do was keep it incredibly flexible. Everybody is going to have to be able to present virtually, effectively. Be it your job or even using Zoom to talk to family. Maybe you want to share some photos. So obviously Mike and I take it to professional levels, but it's a skill that I see them teaching children today. So it's valuable for anybody and everybody. Well, as I say, we'll keep it flexible. We'll take questions from you in the chat, but there is an open phone line if you want to ring in with your question. So we've got the old Skype thing up, and just like we do on Marooned, and if you've not listened to Marooned, you need to listen to Marooned. It's Marooned at MacBites headquarters, our daily show whilst we are under house arrest. So we just have a rare old natter and learn lots about cultures and other people's passions. It's been great. It has been great. So this came up from that, and to keep it flexible in Marooned, you have the ability to ring in on Skype, and just because this is video doesn't mean you can't ring in and just do audio. So what I decided to do was keep it flexible by having an ever-growing thing. So please feel free to join us. I've done a mind map of it. So let me get rid of the outline and attempt to get that to fit the screen. We've split it up into various areas. So the first thing that we're going to start with is pre-presentation considerations. I'm going to zoom into it. All right. And we'll talk it through here. And I want lots of feedback from you. Have you been to sessions like this? What's your preference? What are you going to have to do? And of course, Mike's microphone, Mike's mic. Remember Lens?
Lens.
Yeah. If you're in Britain, Strictly Come Dancing, Lens. Yeah, well, we have Mike's mic and it's open. So he can join in with me as well. So it's taken us a good while to get that sorted, but we've got it sorted. So before you even think of presenting virtually, you've got questions to think about. And it done in the cold light of day, like now, this makes total sense. You'll be looking at it and thinking, well, obviously. But when you've got an emergency meeting to get on, this will totally go out of your head. So the first thing to think about is what platforms you'd be using. Now, there are a million platforms, as you are probably all aware. GoToMeeting, WebEx, GoToWebinar, Big Crayon, Adobe Connect, Zoom, you name it. Even what we're doing now is a platform, it's YouTube. How I get the video and audio to you, that is a platform of kind. It's more of an application thing. But if Mike and I think about, well, how are we going to do this? You know, the first thing to think about is what you actually need. So do they need to see it? Is it just audio? So all of those things come into choosing your platform. So let me know, what platforms have you used? Do you have favourites? Have you never run a session, but you've attended a session? Let me know in the chat. Otherwise, this isn't going to work. So let me know in the chat. So the platform's your first consideration, but we're going to come back to that. It's just at this point, you need to be aware of that. You may be in the unenviable position that you've only got one platform to use. You may feel that that limits you in some way, and I have heard that so many times. Oh, well, I want to use product X because product Y doesn't do A, B, or C. And that may be true. But that doesn't need to limit you. I did a session in 2012, so 8 years ago, and there's a video of it on my blog, and it's just as relevant today as it was then. And I remember saying, and I put up a slide, and it said, there's nothing that you can do in face-to-face training that you can't do virtually. And people took me on with that. Oh, you can't show an iPad? Yes, I can. You can't show a phone? Yes, I can. You can't use presentation view. Yes, I can. Well, Keynote doesn't have a laser pointer. No, but I've got one. So whatever they threw up, the answer was, yes, I can. But not necessarily using the platform as intended. Right, the next thing you're going to need to think about, calendaring. So I am going to show you some of these platforms. Calendaring is, how do you get your meeting to people? Now, obviously, we send you emails. Sometimes if you automatically register for something, you'll automatically get a calendar appointment and you will double click it to add it to your calendar. Right, so Paul's saying Microsoft Teams, Skype for Business, Zoom and Adobe Connect. Is Adobe Connect a question mark of what on earth is that? Or is that all of them? Right, Deb says she likes the Zoom platform. It does screenshots and that are readable. Zoom is the one at the moment. The British government are using it. Now, that is nothing short of amazing because about 10 months ago, there was a calamity with Zoom. There was a bug in it that was so... Cupertino, Apple at Cupertino thought it was so horrific, they deployed stealth mode and installed an update to everybody's computer. If you were connected to the internet and you had a Mac, they updated you. And you did not know about it. Stealth update. They don't do that often, but they did for this bug. So the fact that it's in government is nothing short of amazing because 10 months ago, no chance. No way would that be happening. No way. So let's have a look what else we've got. Mike uses Teams, don't you?
I use Teams. I use Zoom. We still use Skype for Business.
Now, Skype for Business is the one that's morphing into Teams, though.
Yeah.
So Skype for Business is going away. You could actually use normal Skype for meetings. Didn't you say there was a limit on it? Was it
50? Is it? No.
No, it's less than that.
Let's Google it.
Or was it 49?
I thought it was 50.
It could be 50, 49 or 50. It's quite a low limit. The problem with Skype is it's pretty much been down all week. It's not that stable if you were going to try and use Skype. Now, Zoom is the one at the moment. Adobe Connect is an older one, a much older one.
Skype has a limit of 50.
Yeah, so it was 50. Yeah, Adobe Connect is an older one. Adobe bought that. They acquired it when they acquired Macromedia, who had bought it from somebody else, but it is still there. It's very good. It's stable. It's great in terms of the interaction that you can provide with it. The problem with it is it has a bad rep. It gets a bad rep because people say to you, I'm not installing Flash. It doesn't need Flash. But unfortunately, everybody thinks it does. So Adobe Connect, bad rep. If you would like a demonstration of Adobe Connect, I have an Adobe Connect account. I can do that for you. Let me know. Let me know in the chat. But the thing is, depending on which platform you choose, you're going to get different calendaring options. So at the pre-presentation stage, you've got to think, well, who's this for? Is it for external people that don't know it's on? So more of a webinar. Is it for internal people that do know it's on and I don't need to think about calendaring? Do I need to get an appointment to somebody? Is it something that's regular that they all know about? Just basically think about the calendaring. Then the next thing is the usage training. Now, this is big for Mike. We didn't actually have to train you that much other than in, here's a URL, go to it and press play, when we started doing Marooned at MacBites headquarters. You gave us some great suggestions, which was, can we have a banner when we go live so you know it's live? We've done that. So we deployed that in two different ways. First one, not great. Second one worked. But it was a great suggestion. The only problem we have with it is, unless you refresh your browser as you're listening and then press play again, that graphic doesn't automatically appear, unfortunately. There's no way we can force it to appear the second we go live. We can only make it live, and then if you update the page, you will see that it's live. But if you join us, at sort of 7 on the dot, because we've got other things now that work, then it would work. You'd see the banner, which is great. Now, so usage training didn't need much for that. But when we first started doing stuff online for MacBites, it was 2008. And we were using Adobe Connect because it was one of the only ways back then. And people didn't really have much of a clue. So we used to do a quick 5 minutes at the beginning of where everything was and what they could do with it. You do a lot more on usage training, don't you, Mike?
Yes.
Now, is that for attendees or is it for presenters?
It's both. Because yes, in theory you can just click a link and you're in, but people need to know how to use the chat and if they want to take over and share their screen, how to mute themselves, etc., etc. So there is more to it than just presenting and setting up.
Yep. I think it depends on. You want people at the point of delivery not to be saying, I can't get in. Now, we've had this week with Zoom with people who, when they say they want Zoom training, it isn't particularly that they want Zoom training in how to run a Zoom themselves. It's more, I need to attend one and I don't want to have a problem at the point of delivery. And that's so important. It's going to depend on the demographic, and you will know that better than we will. But it's just something to think about. We've got a meeting on Thursday night. That's an incredibly important thing, not particularly for us. We're facilitating it. So I said to Mike, might be an idea to have a run through on Wednesday, with it being an important thing. You don't want people at 5 to 8 saying, I can't get in. Because a lot of people, they literally log in at the death and then they've got problems and then they're holding everybody else up. Whereas if you've considered usage training and you've done the usage training, you don't have that problem. Your audio options are pretty much voice over IP, which is what you're doing now, although it's not... the audio is getting to you through your computer, and I'm using a global turn of voice over IP for that. The other option is a dial-in where you get a number. Now, that can be expensive, and there's a lot of different ways to do it. I don't know many people who use that. Do you have a lot of people using it? He's thinking now.
No.
The only time I've ever done that was a good few years ago. Do you remember when we were having the windows changed? And I'd just come out of hospital. I wanted to attend this webinar, and it was in Germany, and they didn't have voice over IP. They had provided a phone number, so I used Skype. I was charged for the call, but obviously it was Skype, so it was quite inexpensive. I think it was about 70 pence for the webinar, about a penny a minute. And that's the last time I can really remember having to rely on a call. What do you guys do? Is it dial-in? Is it more voice over IP? Let me know. The dial-in option would mean probably a paid-for account, because obviously that has an impact on your provider. They have to provide that. Then there's the format of the actual webinar itself, which is, do you want to do audio only? If you do, that used to be known as a teleconference. Do you remember years ago when people say, I'm on a teleconference? Even with a teleconference, you tend to have a chat. So right now, and not much happening on my screen, apart from you looking at the list that I'm going through. But there will be, because I'm going to show you applications. But you're putting in the chat. That's basically a teleconference. Not much moving on the screen, and you chatting in the chat. You could decide you're just going to do slides. I have done sessions like that. You will find some on my blog if you want to go and have a look at them. They're where they are just slides. Obviously, millions of people are doing talking head. Every time I see Zoom, it's talking head. I don't do talking head. I've never felt the need to have me whittering on in the corner to add value to whatever it is I'm saying. You can concentrate on what I'm saying. Having said that, I did a talking head one about a week ago, but that's unusual for me. Very, very unusual for me. But most people do tend to include some kind of talking head. Let me know if you prefer that or not. Then there's screen sharing. Most people these days, particularly if you're demonstrating something, are going to want to do a screen share.
We did talking head.
When did you do talking head?
It's a team meeting.
Today?
No, recently.
That's unusual for you.
Yeah.
Mostly he says I'm having a bad hair day and doesn't turn his camera on. Now, to be completely fair, I'm sat behind you and I understand you wouldn't want to put me in a position where I'm sort of half on camera and half not on camera.
Yeah, but everyone's having a bad hair day at the moment.
They are. Yes, nobody can get out to have anything done with their hair, so they are. So screen sharing is incredibly important. You have to think about how you're going to do it, but also the other end. What if you want them to share their screen and you control it? Obviously, the way we're doing it right now, can't do that. Having said that, could we? Well, not through YouTube, no. But the application that I'm using has a feature built into it. So I'm using Telestream's Wirecast, that's Wirecast from Telestream, that has a feature in it called Rendezvous. And I could set up a rendezvous with any of you, give you a link to click. You would install a piece of software, you would come through to me, and I'd be able to see your screen, and you could do a demonstration. I'm prepared to try that. If anybody wants to try that next time, let me know. So you have to think about screen sharing not just from the perspective of you providing a screen. You may need to see their screen. Document sharing slightly different because you've got so many different options to do it. But this week in particular, I've had more questions about sharing documents than I have in the last year. Just literally because people are at home and they need to share a document and they don't know how. Now, the hybrid option at the bottom is literally all of the above. So Mike and I have done teleconferences this week that have had audio only. You've done slide-based ones. We've had one with Talking Head with 38 people in it. We've done screen sharing, basically because somebody found it and we had to explain what it was. He thought he had to share his screen. He was actually reading the Daily Mail because it was nothing worse. We've done document sharing and we've shown people how to document share. And obviously those demonstrations we've done have been hybrid in themselves. So that's all the things to think about. There's probably a million things more, but that's what we thought of when we came to think about, well, what do you do first? So we've gone through all of the pre-stuff. Let's come out of there and let's go into the next one. Do we want timings or do we want hardware? Let's think about hardware next. Right, I will show you some of this. So this I will show you. But these are the things you have to think about. Obviously, when you talk about giving a presentation, most people say, oh, a remote control, I've got remote control. So Jonathan bought a really snazzy remote control. If he weren't asleep, all together now, klaxon for Isaacs, he may be able to demonstrate this for us. I might keep him up early next. I'll keep him up later next week. That's what we'll do. We'll ply him with coffee. So there's anything from probably about £6 or £7 on Amazon up to as much as you want to pay, £200-300, where they look like little mini computers of their own. Obviously in the remote section, you've also got the fact that you can do that with an iOS device, which is in the next section, iOS devices. When I put a session on many years ago, 2012, about presenting with an iPad, people went away from the session saying, whoa, I thought you were going to show us how we could present the slides on an iPad. And I said, no, the session was presenting with an iPad, not presenting on an iPad. Big difference. What could you use an iOS device for in a session? Now, on my desk, which you are about to see, I have an iPad. It's been sat there all day. It's my iPad 10.5. I'm using that one because the smaller one I have is white and I wanted a black frame for this. And it's been sat there all day doing one job and doing it well. But that job is nothing to do with actually controlling the presentation, moving the slides on. It's not doing an audio recording. It's not doing a video recording. It's not relaying any audio and it's not doing a backup of any description. What on earth could she be using it for? Well, I'll tell you that later. But there's a whole list of things you could do with an iOS device. So when I say to people, next to me, I have 14 iPads, they're like, that's gratuitous. I always make the point about how many shoes do you have? Because it's usually a lady that doesn't understand. The second I mention shoes or nail varnish, they seem to magically get it. Don't get that myself, but never mind. But I could have on my desk 8 iPads, all doing different things. One could be doing a video recording, one could be doing an audio recording, one is doing the magical job that you're trying to work out what it is right now. I could also relay audio. I have used my phone as a personal hotspot in a presentation. More than once. You could even use it as a remote. I've even used multiple iOS devices just to control the presentation. I did talk about this a while ago. It was somebody who came in at the last minute with their presentation on a pen drive, but that's a whole different story, and wanted me to move the slides on. That's fine. I'm sat with a laptop then. And then turned around and said to me, 1 minute before she was supposed to be starting, I need to see the presenter's notes. I said, did you not print them out? No. Well, how can I move the slides on and give her the laptop when I'm controlling everything with the laptop? And I had 30 seconds at this stage to come up with a solution. And I put out 4 iPads. And we were controlling it with an iPad. She had a clicker to move on, so it was moving on from the laptop. But in front of her, she had an iPad and it had nothing else on it but the presenter's notes. I had an iPad. There was a third facilitator at the back of the room, had an iPad. They were all controlling the same thing. So don't just think with an iOS device, presenting with an iOS device. Just think you've got this piece of magic in your hand that you could choose to do anything with. Although we're talking about virtual, you may well have a live audience too. That happened to you, didn't it, Mike? Weren't you doing a presentation in a meeting room? 3 people in the meeting room and like the other 8 somewhere else in the world?
Yeah.
So if you are going to have a live audience, don't forget that. And don't concentrate on, well, it's going over the internet and it'll be fine, I've got one screen. No, think about what's going on in the room. What do you need in the way of projectors? What do you need in the way of screens? One of the big challenges is how you're going to relay the audio. The video is actually easier to relay than the audio. Think about that. Then there's what I call the essentials, which is, in my case, tonight I said to Mike, oh, for the love of bleep bleep, I'm using my laptop. I've got a camera attached to it. I need the dongle. Where's the dongle? Now, the dongle lives in the top drawer next to me. And that's why, because I can't do a thing with this without a dongle. It's one of the newer MacBook Airs. You're lucky it'll charge. You need a dongle to do anything with it. And as I've just said, the lady came in with it on a pen drive. Well, that's not going to work too well without some kind of dongle. Not these days, it's not. What if you're presenting with an iPad or using an iPad and it's on a pen drive? So you really have to think about things like that. Card readers, I've seen people come in with a backup on a card and a pen drive, and you're looking at it thinking, well, neither of those are going to be stuck in an iPad, are they? So you have to think ahead about things like that. Also, the network interface. How, based on where you're presenting this and how you're presenting this, how are you connecting to the internet? I've turned up at places and been told that the internet's only Wi-Fi or only cabled. If it's only cabled, she said, looking at this dongle, then I'm knackered because it doesn't do that. I'd need another dongle. If I need another dongle, I'm going to have to hang a dongle off a dongle because otherwise I can't charge it. Unless I've got a pass-through power dongle. How many dongles do you need? Well, about 47 at the last count. So if you think about these things in hand and make a checklist, you won't be freaked out at the time of presenting it. So just something to think about. Now, I can't really show you any of that, but we will get on to some demonstrations because I'm moving on to software now. Now, shall I do that before I do the other thing? I will. I'll do this one next. Right. In terms of software, I live in Keynote. Mike, you prefer PowerPoint? Would that be fair to say?
I prefer PowerPoint. Yeah.
Do you prefer PowerPoint in Windows or Mac or both?
Windows.
If I'm on Windows, then I will use PowerPoint. The thing I find with PowerPoint, by comparison to Keynote, obviously you've got the compatibility issues with Keynote, but if you keep your stuff simple, you don't use exotic transitions and stuff, they can be fairly forgiving for each other.
I don't use any transitions.
I don't. They don't well, this is for virtual presenters. They don't translate well. You will see it on your screen. It will look fantastic. But you need to log in as a remote viewer and watch your own presentation before you start, at which point you'll realise transitions, never. If you notice with my slides, there's never any transitions. We go from after hour slides to content slides to black slides and back in again, but there's never any transitions, except they are transitions between slides. There may be some animation on a slide, but if there is, it will be fractional. The one I use the most is when it scrolls. But if I'm using that animation on a slide, it's because I need it to scroll. I need it to move for you to see it move. And the only other way would be to come out of my presentation and go into a browser and actually scroll it. And as Jonathan found, he loved that tip because it scrolls much neater. You can control the scroll rather than actually go in and do it. And you've no guarantee at the point that you come to present that you're going to have an internet connection. You hope you will if you're doing it virtual, because it won't be great if you've not. But their site may be down, so you don't know. So it's a way that you can control it. But in terms of, do you use Keynote? Do you use PowerPoint? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Whatever works for you. because you're presenting it virtually, like you've seen me do it tonight. So it doesn't actually matter at the point that you're delivering it. Now, I've put down audio. I've put down video. Let's start with video. I'll put down video. I can't tell you the number of times, either face-to-face or online, somebody has wanted to share a video. What's the most difficult thing with showing a video online? Let me know in the chat. Have you ever done this? How did you do it? What were the problems you faced? There is one overriding problem with video, and not many people have got the solution to it. I have, and I can show you how I do it.
I have.
Have you? You've got the solution to it.
Mm.
Yeah, let's see if anybody else has got that problem. Because what I don't have here at the moment is a video. I'm wondering where I can get a very, very short video. Did we do... Let me see if I can open this. I'm going to open from many moons ago. We did... I think we've done it twice now, haven't we, Mike? The one on Christmas Eve. The Christmas Eve one. And after hours on Christmas Eve. It would have been very early on. Let me have a look if I can find it. What number was Christmas Eve? January. Nearly that's that back up. January, back up. It was either the 28th or it was Christmas Eve. So it was, I've got an episode 6 here. And I can see it's quite big, so I'm going to open that one. No one's saying a thing. Have you all nodded off? Because there's not much moving on the screen. Let me know. Could it be this? We did something that was... Mike, do you remember? Do you remember what you did?
No.
Was it in the unboxing? I don't even know if this is the right show. But it's fairly big, so I was hopeful, but maybe it's not. Find me the show where you did that alternative car play thingy. Remember it?
Yeah, that was early on.
It was. I thought it was Christmas Eve.
So, what's the number one problem that you're thinking of?
Nobody's getting my number one problem. The number one problem with sharing video is not video. It's the audio. How do you get the audio from the video?
That's what I was thinking.
And that has held up so many people.
I'll give you my solutions. Or do you want to?
Are they the same as mine?
I don't know. I doubt it.
No, let me...
Because yours are dead techie.
No, this one isn't actually. But go on. You give us yours. Well, you tell me which was the one you did the car play in.
That's what I'm looking for.
I'm ready to open it when you tell me which one it was.
It was dead early on.
I know it was, but it must have been in the presentation. Must have been. And 6 was the first one we did it with. So it could have been the day after. Which was the Christmas one. Wakey. Yeah, wake them all up. Right, while we try and find that video, Mike's going to tell us his solution.
Right, there's 2 solutions. Depends
that you
what
use.
You're using. If you're using Skype, then you embed the video into a PowerPoint presentation, and instead of sharing your desktop, you share the PowerPoint presentation. And
that has the effect of sharing the audio from PowerPoint automatically.
Yeah.
Nicely done.
The other option, the other solution, is to use Zoom. It does it natively.
Zoom's very clever for doing that. Zoom is very forgiving with it.
Because I tested it the other day.
Right, but right now, I'm not using Zoom. You're going to tell me it was 5 now or something stupid,
no,
aren't you?
5.
Can't be 5. It was after 5. Let me get Edge up. No, your problem doing that, if you're using Zoom, then natively it's doing it. If you're using the other apps and they natively do it, fantastic.
It was 6.
I thought it was 6. In which case, why aren't I seeing it when I open it?
Budget.
Right, the 6 and see if I can find it. I thought it was 6. If the app doesn't support it, then you have a huge problem. Now, if you're on Windows, you're going to carry on having a huge problem because it just... There are apps, but they're not like the Mac ones. So, CarPlay on a budget, you're right, it's there. Christmas at MacBites headquarters. Unzipping CarPlay on a budget, I've got it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you this that I've got here. So it's a normal presentation from Christmas 2018. And we have here a whole section that was CarPlay on a budget. And there's a little slide, and then there is a video. That is a video. Now, the magic does not happen in Keynote. So if we click on that, you can go to movie, and this is where you would control volume and things. Yes, you'd control the trim on the in and the out. You'd control the poster frame. So we could move through the entire video while you're looking at that. Now, when we did this, you can also repeat it here and whether you start it on a click or whether it automatically plays. Now, the interesting thing when we did this was we hadn't thought of that. So when you heard it, Mike revoiced it. But now we have a way to do that, and it doesn't matter where the audio is coming from. So let me show you how we do that, and then I'll play it for you. Right, you saw this last week, which is the microphones. All of the magic that goes on with the microphones. So at the moment, this is the top one, that's me. The bottom one is me, that's the backup. And the middle one is Mike, which is why you've got a little bit of bouncing there, which is me, but not enough to cause problems, apparently. So this is going to what's called the loop back pipe. At this end, so I'm going to bring this over here. This is going to get very meta. You're going to get that standing looking at a TV shop window thing. Over here, the input for the audio is the loopback pipe. So that tells us that anything that goes to the loopback pipe will be broadcast. So all we need to do is to get Keynote to talk to the loopback pipe. It's simple. And indeed, it's already there. There's Keynote, there's the loopback pipe. If there were any audio in Keynote, you would be hearing it. So let's try it. Let's see if you can hear Mike, because you've never heard this before. You were supposed to, but it didn't work at the time. We fixed it after. So let me run that one. There's CarPlay on a budget. I did an intro saying it was a very, very limited budget. And then we went into the video, which is the poster frame, and then played it.
So this is the device, just a small device, plugs into the cigarette lighter, which I'll do in a minute. It's got buttons for moving to the next track and the previous track. You can actually take a phone call, answer a call with that button in the middle, and you can also stop and start the music. And on the side it's got a USB port, and it's got another USB.
Right, I won't put you through all of it, but how that happened...
you don't want to hear me.
Of course we do, of course we do. But how that happened was by going through there. So anything that you want, any application that you want to send audio, and I've particularly mentioned it in relation to video, you just add a block for the application and you send it to your output device. And then you use your output device as the input device that you share. So when I log into a WebEx or a Zoom meeting or anything else, I don't hook up the microphone on my H6 or my 2005 or anything else. The only thing I send is the loopback pipe. That means on the fly, during the show, I could actually, if somebody said, can you play something from VLC? The answer to that is yes. Simplest way to do it, go in there, change that from Keynote to VLC, and I'm good. I can then play VLC. Or I can add in an extra block. So let's add in a block. Let's go over here and actually add a block in for that. So I want an input device. So grab that, or an application. Now in this case, I want an application. So I'll drag the application over there. I will get that in the right place. So it's going to the loopback pipe, which in turn is sending it to the headphones. To show that properly, I would probably do that with it. Then I select the application. So let's say VLC.
You impressed Paul.
Oh, he's Paul impressed.
You got a wow from Paul.
A wow from Paul. Excellent, yeah. Excellent. Now, notice here that VLC I edited. If that was good, Paul, you're going to like this. I actually edited what I'm sending out live without stopping it. It's still recording. So I can edit this on the fly as needed, and it will just update itself, and I could send you audio from VLC or anywhere else. So we're going to have one of these set up because we've got something special happening tomorrow that I will tell you about in Marooned tomorrow night. We're going to have a whole range of those set up to do just that. And that's how you do it, on the fly. So obviously, if it's a presentation and it's a video, one way is VLC, but it's messy. You'd have to come out of your presentation, run VLC, open the thing, and then start it playing. If you just put it on a slide, everything's neat and tidy. And it's dealt with. I was able, once I knew which show it was, to go back to that and just play it. I didn't have to think, oh, where's the video? What format is it? Will it play in this? How loud's the audio? It's just on the slide. Just leave it there. And that's how you get the audio out. So the audio is more difficult than the video. When we did that the first time and we didn't have it configured correctly, you'd see the pictures. That's VLC opened in the background automatically. You could see the pictures, couldn't hear it. So audio, incredibly important, and that's why I've put Audio Hijack. Audio Hijack is the amazing app. It holds everything else together. It runs the radio station, it runs the audio on the lives, it can mute applications. I've actually attended on my Mac 3 webinars at the same time, and I've sent the audio to 3 different places. I could be facilitating someone in a webinar, I could be monitoring somebody else, and I could actually be delivering a webinar. All the audio is going through my Mac, but it's not getting involved with itself in multiple channels. It's not dirtying the audio for everything else. It's all held totally separately and routed separately, or routed separately in our American friends, using Audio Hijack. Audio Hijack is absolutely fantastic. Could not live without it. Right, the next thing to think about is if you're doing it the way that we're doing it, which is a broadcast suite. A broadcast suite looks like that you've seen. It takes all the stuff that's keyed up here. So at the bottom, we have my left-hand screen. We then have my iMac screen, my right-hand screen. We have a poster. So when I switch to the poster, that's what I do. Now, you're not seeing that poster right now. That's keying it up. On the left-hand side, I'm keying it up. When I transfer it, like that, you then won't see my desktop, my iMac, you will see that poster. You could see the webcam. There's the webcam. So let me transfer that. There's the webcam. Hello. And that's how I would do it. Now you can see I've got another webcam that's not feeling too well. It's the same webcam as that. I also have a picture-in-picture where I can do 2 things. And the webcam should appear on there. But you get the idea of what's happening. So let me get you back to the iMac, where you won't be seeing anything at all. So I'm saying over here, there's the webcam that should be working that isn't working. There's my picture-in-picture. There's Mike. Is it legitimate to click on you? Or are you somewhere you shouldn't be?
Is it somewhere?
There we go. He's looking for tech tutorials. There we go. So we can see Mike as well. And that is a broadcast suite. Now, that's heckishly expensive. There are cheaper alternatives that you could use. This one is Wirecast. The other one that's well, it was cheaper. It was Ecamm Live, but now it's subscription. Wirecast is subscription, but Wirecast is actually a cheaper subscription than Ecamm Live, believe it or not. I do find that very strange because that's an amazing application. But those are the 2 that if you're going to do what I do, which is broadcast live to YouTube. Then you've got your remote control apps. So this is apps that you may have on your phone. I struggled, let's see if Mike knows the answer to this. I struggled to find one for iOS, for PowerPoint. I expected Microsoft to have one. Does it not work like that? You know, like Keynote? Keynote itself is the remote control app for iOS. It didn't used to be, but they changed it. But there are third-party solutions that would enable you to do that. So think about how you're going to control your presentation. Particularly, let's fly back up our mind map. And if you want to copy this, I can make that available. Go flying back up your mind map and think over here, how are you actually presenting this? Because if you're doing talking head, nobody wants to see you looking at another monitor and flicking around and you know, where's this, where's that. It has to look smooth.
I click a remote for PowerPoint.
Yeah, but I was expecting a Microsoft solution, and I didn't find one.
No.
There may used to have been one. I definitely thought there was, but there isn't anymore.
There was Microsoft Remote, wasn't there?
I thought it was called Microsoft Remote, but basically they're the things that you need to think about. And that's what I was meaning with this mind map, that you come over this side and then you've got to go back and think about something else. Now, the utilities are all the demo part of tonight, which was all the things that I find critical. So we talked about Demo Pro the other night. Demo Pro is the app that lets me, now hang on, I've got multiple things. So let me show you zooming the screen first, because it's using the same keyboard shortcut, isn't it? And that's not good. Right, there is an app that I can zoom the screen with, which is this one. And that was called Zoom It. And it was good. Now you can see I've put Mac and it's legacy. You can't buy it anymore. So I can use it as long as it's supported. But that was the point I decided I was going to need to find an alternative straight away. I don't like the alternative. I'll be honest with you. It's free. This is how you do it. It's in the system preferences. You go into your system preferences, you go to accessibility, you click on Zoom, and you have these options. Now, first off, as it's configured right now, I can zoom my screen by holding the control key down and using the wheel on the mouse, or on a magic mouse, just the finger gesture up and down. I cannot show you that effectively. That's why I don't use it. Because when you're screen sharing, it gets very upset with that. So I have my Mac set like that all the time, because Mike's about 2 meters away handily. And if I want him to look at something on my screen, I'll say, look at that. And he'll say, can you zoom in? And I do. I zoom in like on a wheel. And that's how that's configured. But there's another option down here that says picture in picture. And that would let me do that. Doesn't it look like Zoom It? But it's not. It's the system. So it's free, completely free. How I'm doing that is not the control key. It is... it doesn't actually tell you that there, but I know. Did I put it in the options? Yep, it's these here. So I know which keys it is. It's the control key and the option key. And all I'm doing with that is just pushing those 2 keys, and that pops up automatically. Now, that will work brilliant for you. As long as, unlike me, you're not used to using it with the control key in full screen view. If I use the same 2 keys with that zoom style set to full screen, nothing happens. It does normally, but because I'm running at such a low screen resolution, nothing's happening. So that's just something to think about. Now, Zoom It on Windows is a whole different business. It's not the same application. The difference is the space. Do you want to talk about Zoom It? Can you show it?
No, because I've not got it installed.
Here I am picking up the app. Mike, not got it installed.
Because I've only got it installed on my work laptop.
Well,
it's very much like that Demo Pro that we promoted.
It does more than just Zoom, doesn't it? Even though it's called Zoom It.
I don't use it for Zoom. I use it for screen annotation.
So Zoom It's more like Demo Pro, which I'll be showing you in a second. The reason I'm not showing you that first is I'm going to have to turn off Zoom It. So I don't use Zoom It anymore, but I have specially done it tonight, and it's somewhere in here. Is that the Zoom It one? Yes, you are. So I'm going to quit that so I can show you the other one. Right, so I'm going back to the top of the list, Demo Pro. You've seen me use this a million times. It's the one that lets you do that. Now, you might be wondering why that's blue. So am I. I must have changed it. There is a shortcut key to do it. The whole thing is controlled from up here. So what did I do to change that? I must have used the switch colour. I'm going to make it red. Now, you have a few options in here, and you have a few hotkeys to choose to use different tools. So there is a freehand tool, the line tool, an arrow tool, the rectangle. Those are the ones that give you different shapes. I have literally used those shortcut keys because they are grouped together and I can use them one-handed. So if we have a look at the freehand tool, I can draw freehand. You'll notice that the activation is to hold the key down. So if I were to hold the control key down and the S and then let go, I'm not actually managed to draw anything. If I start drawing and let go, it stops. Because I've got it set to hold the key down. You get used to it. Then you've got the line, which is Q. So you do that. That's drawing lines. I also have Q doing something else, which is why that's just moved. Hopefully I can track it back up there. Zoom options are different in Catalina. Are they better or worse, Paul? I fear I know the answer to this. I fear I do, to be honest. Right, that opens it up back up there. Then there's the arrow, which is the A. So let's just point to that. And then you've got the rectangle, which is the Z. And the reason that I had to demonstrate Zoom It first was that's the key I used to use for Zoom It. Now, the other keys down here are to switch the colour, which is that one. So that will let me draw in a blue. That one again, switch it back, and you're then drawing in red. Like that. The ones at the bottom, below the switch colour, are all of the controlling things. So to undo it, you could use the U key, which is a little bit trickier to use. It's a little bit further away. I always use the erase all, which is Control and X. And then there was the timer. Do you remember the fun we had with the timer? You could do that, and you could set it up to be full screen, and it was escape to get rid of it. So that's Demo Pro. That one's fabulous. That one is definitely fabulous. Well worth it. You're trying to figure out if they're better or worse. It's a very subtle thing, so I totally understand where you're coming from with that, Paul. It's not until you set it up and then start using it that you think, do you know what, this isn't working. So I'll have a look at it when I finally bother to install Catalina, which at this rate will be sometime in 2023. Possibly. Right, the next one is Pinpoint. Pinpoint gives you that. It highlights your mouse. Now, I had a couple of problems with this when I moved to Mojave. So, heaven help us in Catalina. It's not Retina. That is not Retina. The quality of that is shocking. If I put that next to something that is Retina, you can see that the mouse pointer looks fine, but the circle, no, less so. What I did with it was I replaced it with one of my own and it looked great. That stopped working. So there was a problem for a start. But that is what Zoom It does. I have used that when I've done videos. I tend not to be honest. Now this is, again, what we're talking about now is a lot of people think training is training is training. It isn't, it isn't. Virtually presenting is nowhere near the same as making a video. If I were making a video for somebody, I could put a circle around that in post and it would look fabulous. I would do it in Camtasia or ScreenFlow. So you'll hear a lot of people say, I'll fix that in post, I'll do that in post. I'll put all the clever stuff on in post. That's not going to work. You're live with me tonight. I need to be able to see it on the screen to relay it to you. And that was the demonstration that I did. Mike, can you find the link to that? It was about 2012 and it was the VLS, I think. There was two I did, wasn't there? One was training virtually, the other one was podcasting. So it's the training virtually one. And it came as quite a revelation to the people who were there, who were professional trainers. Their attitude was, well, I can do it later. And if it's a webinar, I can't do it at all. If I'm doing it live, I can't do it at all. But you can. You just have to think about it. If I do that with you now, where I'm saying, okay, so we've looked at Demo Pro and we're now on to looking at Pinpoint. That circle that I have around that mouse pointer is there all the time. It's burnt into the recording. Oh dear. That's why if you're doing video, do it in post. But if you're doing a live session, find a way to do it live. Don't rely on, well, ScreenFlow's got this fabulous tool and I can put a circle on it later. That won't help your audience live. So find a different tool. What you would use for video is not necessarily what you would use in a live situation. Mouse Pose is another alternative. So let me get that one turned off. And I'm going to close that because it's not great quality anymore, is it?
Not podcasting and learning, is it?
It might have been. No, it wasn't podcasting. No, it was the VLS. Look up Virtual Learning Show. Now, Mouse Pose is similar-ish, which is, it gives you a whole range of things that you can use to highlight your mouse. So I cannot remember. There it is up there. Right. These are the Mouse Pose effects. So that's it turned on. It's more of a torch thing. Again, it will be burnt into your video that you make, both on YouTube and locally. But you're seeing it live. Right, it does other things. That's not the only thing it does. So if we go into the preferences and we turn it off, I did have shortcut keys. That's the one I'm pressing. Why aren't you toggling on? Oh, you are now. Awesome. Right, so I can toggle that on and off. You can choose what it looks like. So at the minute it's 100 pixels. You could choose to blur the circle. There's the circle blurred. It's not actually much use when it's that blurred, is it? And let's turn it off again. You're not turning off. That's better. You can change the colour of it. You can animate the zoom. And you can automatically have it deactivate after a certain amount of seconds. To do all of that, you set the configuration in here and then just have one toggle key to toggle it on and off. So you'll notice that my toggle key for this is exactly the same as it was for Zoom It, because it makes sense to me if I'm using this. Must admit, I don't often use it. You can highlight your mouse clicks with a totally different system. And you can choose whether you have the mouse pose effect at the same time. So over here, I'm going to click. I'll click in this window. If I just click, nothing happens. If I turn the toggle on and I click, yeah, nothing's happening then either. That's not good. I think I've probably cross-wired that with something, but basically you'd get a click around it. So that's that one. And you've then got your keystrokes. And you can see all my monitors here and where you want them displayed. I don't use that much either, but we could probably turn it on, couldn't we? Oh no, I didn't want to do that. Good grief, not in there, I didn't. Right, let's go into here. Was that? And then... No, I'm not even seeing that either. I probably got, because I don't use that much, I've probably got that cross-wired with something else. You see all the different applications that do these jobs. I tend to use all of the same shortcut keys, and then only use one of them at the point of recording. If it's a video, I wouldn't use mouse pose. If it's a video, I would do it in post. It gives me much more flexibility. But that's mouse pose. So similar job, slightly different. It's a subscription application. I know that's not going to make it popular for everybody. It's not expensive. I think it's about £7 or £8 a year. But it's the principle of the matter, isn't it? We don't like subscriptions. Now, the next one is a strange app. Why would you want to hide your mouse pointer? Well, I wanted to hide my mouse pointer when I did the Zoom thing. Because if you notice, when you do something like, let's do that, mouse pointer's in the middle. And as I move it, it kind of sticks with the middle, but you can see it. What if you wanted that, but without the mouse pointer? Well, your first step for doing that would be to go back into the preferences and see if it can actually do it. So never forget to go back into the preferences and try it in there. So that's turning it on. It's turning it off. Let's go into the preferences. And there's no option to not have the mouse pointer. There's your problem. So this application, this mouse hider, no, not house, mouse. Right, mouse hider. That'll put something up here. What I did was hook it in. So let's have a look if we can find it. It's got that silly new icon that I can never remember. I reckon I hid it completely. But if I close down mouse pose, not that one, where's mouse pose gone? There we go. If I quit mouse pose and I go back in to pinpoint and I turn my pinpoint on, pinpoint for me, I did have one set up. I'm frantically trying to find it and the mouse pointer disappeared. And I have no idea which one it was. Oh no. But I can make that mouse pointer disappear and then just have that flying around. The application was available in the App Store. Hopefully it's still there. Let's go in and have a look. Mouse hider. It's still actively produced because there have been recent updates. There we go. From Bye Bye Cursor. No, Espo next. So it shows you what it actually does. You can have hot points and all sorts. That works very, very well. Like it says, particularly useful for Wacom users who want it turned off. I can't tell you how much that is, but Mike will tell you. And you can see it was updated 3 months ago, so it still is an active thing. And I don't think it's expensive. It's quirky. You may want to lose your mouse pointer when you're watching a video as well. So you would...
Mouse
hider, sorry, yeah. You may want... $2.99. It's good to have it, just in case. One thing you can do is when you've configured mouse hider to hide your cursor, you could use Keyboard Maestro to chain together two commands. One that hides the mouse pointer and another that turns on pinpoint. And then a second command that does two things in Keyboard Maestro that turns back on the mouse pointer and turns off pinpoint. So you could do that as well. Right, thank you for putting that link in. Right, Paul says, I'm going to say worse at the moment. Can't find out how to make the picture-in-picture temporary based on a key press. Looks like you can toggle it as the method of display. I'm not surprised they keep fiddling with it, and that's why I don't really want to rely on it. But because they've added it, other companies producing things like Zoom It are saying, well, I'm not bothering anymore. Which is not good, is it? Now, then I'm going to talk about platform tools, which are the actual tools that you would use to go live. Sometimes you're not going to have a choice. Because of that, I believe in platform independent presenting. PIP, platform independent presenting. I don't care what I use. I remember, I think it was Connect, Adobe Connect. I was doing a session. It could actually have been the session or the podcast session, I think it was, that Mike's put the link in for. And the facilitator sent me the wrong link. So I'm logged in this room thinking there's not many people here. I think you can hear it actually on the beginning of the recording, which is the podcasting one. And I'm thinking to myself, there's not many people here, like I'm on my own. In the meanwhile, it gets to like 2 minutes before start time, and he was religious about the start time and the finish time. He panics and sends me an email. Where are you? Where are you? I said, I'm in the room that you sent me the link for. Oh, I've sent you the wrong link. So he sends me the new link. I log in 1 minute before showtime. He is in a complete meltdown situation because I have not sent him the slides. And every other presenter that he has used has sent him the slides. And then he uploads it into Connect. And Connect does some jiggery-pokery with it. Basically ruins it. And then the presenter's supposed to speak. And when they want the slide moving on, say to him, next slide, please. I'm not presenting like that.
I was on a call this week where that happened.
What kind of muppet do you look? It's shocking, that.
Next slide, please.
Yes. So I said to him, 50 seconds to go, stop panicking. He's supposed to be an expert in presenting virtually. I wouldn't let him near one. I said, stop panicking. He said, well, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? I said, I'll present them locally. Can't do that. I said, yes, I can. He said, if you do that, you won't see the chat. I said, I've got the chat up on a second screen on an iPad. It's fine. Oh, I said, so do you want to introduce me then? I shared my screen. I did everything local. He'd never seen anything like it. But that platform independent presenting means it doesn't matter to me whether I use Zoom, Connect, GoToMeeting, Skype, 2 tin cans and a ball of string. Doesn't matter. Everything happens locally on my machine. I do not rely on the tools that the platform provides. Now, what I mean by the tools the platform provides, Zoom, Connect, GoToMeeting, does that have a whiteboard? Because Zoom does. Connect has. Skype have a whiteboard?
Yeah.
So they all have their own whiteboards, and on their whiteboards they have their own tools. Fabulous. Problem with that? You've got to learn each one and all the nuances of each one. And whichever one you're an expert in, the second you have to present in something else, you look like a complete idiot. If I want to annotate on my screen here, you've seen me do it. There we go. Can you put an arrow to that? Yes, I can. There we go. And I only have to learn one set of tools, one set of shortcut keys, and a last minute change because, Zoom's down. Not a problem. I'll just present everything locally. To me, that's the holy grail. Okay, what have we got left? Let me know if you're finding this useful. I'm hoping Jonathan will, but Jonathan was supposed to be here. Jonathan was supposed to be asking questions. Crying out loud, Jonathan. Honestly.
Can't get the stuff.
I can't get the stuff. Right, I'm going to go into timing because this one was actually really important. This is the one I'm going to show you. I have used all of these. Timing, you've got to have the time right. I've just talked about that guy who was religious with his timekeeping. He started bang on the hour. He finished bang on the hour. If you'd not finished, a shepherd's hook came on and you disappeared. He would just cut you off. You don't want to look unprofessional, so you're going to need something for timing. Now, obviously, you can see my screen and you can see I've got the time at the top. I do that in here. Yeah, I think it helps because it's such a long show. But, oh, I'm glad it's useful, Paul. Thank you. If it's a video, you won't see the time there. And also, it's a bit small. It's easy to glance up at it and think, I'm fine, I've got 8 minutes. And then think, oh my God. You'll also see I don't have the seconds on it. So I can see when I get to the last minute, but I can't see how to do a nice wrap up because I don't have that on there. But there are lots of alternatives. iSmartClock is one that I have used. I use this for years. That's iSmartClock. Now, it's jumping all over the place. I don't think it's had an update in a while. I would put that on one of my other monitors, and you can configure how it looks. When you mouse over it, it disappears. If you want to click on it to get to the settings, you have to hold the command key down. Can you just check if this is one still available, Mike? It was from the App Store, iSmartClock. You can change how it displays. So you've got a whole range of preferences in here.
$2.99.
$2.99. Still going then. When was it last updated? Because I'm going to say at least 2 years ago, if not more. Let's see. You can start it a login, obviously. You can display the clock, whether you only go into full screen mode. He's having a think.
Doesn't say.
Not on there, it won't, does in the App Store. Click on the link, Mike. You could create shortcut keys, but I don't. You could have it display only for 5 seconds and then disappear. So if it's on your extra...
3rd, 2013.
There you go, 2013. That explains why it's jiggling about. I wouldn't say this one has got legs, if I'm honest with you, but it was the one that I used for years and years. I wanted it particularly simple, just to glance at. But I have found a better way. That would not keep me on track as well as the thing that I'm using now. So that's iSmartClock. Timey is what you're seeing up here that you particularly mentioned. 4 squares, you thought. It's actually 0000. So it's the time. All I need to do with that is just click on it once, and now it starts counting. Now, this is not showing you the time. It's showing you how long you've been prattling on. So if you've got 20 minutes or something to demonstrate whatever, that's a subtle way of doing it. I actually use that when we're recording MacBites, just so I've got an idea of how long we've been prattling on. I don't suppose you use any kind of timer?
I'd do a look at the timer in Audio Hijack.
I love the way you talk about 15 foot from the microphone as well. So you're looking at Audio Hijack. Yeah. Yes, Audio Hijack will show you that. Depends if you've actually got it there to look at or if you want the audience to see it. So that's quite a nice thing. That one's called Timey 3. Now, Guest Timer is another one, but that's a countdown thing. If you want to stop that, you right-click it. So left-click to start, right-click to reset. Guest Timer is a nice one that I do use. This lets you pull down and set an alarm. Tracy's on catch-up, Paul, and she's after you. I'll let you explain that one. So this is going to allow me to, in 4 minutes, at 2 minutes past midnight, it will allow me... See you, Deb. See you next time. This will allow me to set an alarm. Now, obviously, it wouldn't particularly work at the moment because I would put in there what that was. So, you know, end of session or something. End of session. There we go. To see it, I would have to turn on here my notifications or I won't see a thing. But, technically speaking, if I go in there, at 2 minutes past midnight, we'll get a reminder. And that'll show you what that looks like. But that's really just for reminders. The other one is Smart Countdown Timer. This is what I would put up if I was setting a timer and I'll be with you in 5 minutes. That kind of thing. So we start at midnight, Greenwich Mean Time. And then click that, which obviously that's wrong, but never mind. And I would then take that full screen. You're going to put it into Slack. Okay, basically it's the Audio Hijack bundle from Rogue Amoeba. And it's, if you've got none of their apps, it's a great deal. And it's a permanent deal. Okay, so that is Smart Countdown Timer. So what I tend to do with that is put that up if I'm starting at a certain time, and it will just count down, obviously 4 hours, 21 minutes away. So they know exactly when they're starting. Right, let's get rid of that one. What else do we have? These are just other timers that I have used, but by far the best way to use a timer, so you're not putting everything else on your screen, is to do it on another device. So I am going to quickly switch over and show you this. This is me now, and look what I have here. I'm going to turn the camera around. Mike, could you lose the cup? Seeing as though there's been no tea in it for hours. Right, let me turn that round so you can see it. I have an iPad sat there, and it's just showing me a clock. That's all it's doing. I have had that sat there since about 6:30, and I will say to Mike 5 minutes to live at 5 minutes to 7. And he's taken to counting me in, trying to freak me out. So we'll get to, like, I'll say 30 seconds to live. And once we get to about 10, you do a countdown, don't you?
Yeah.
And what do you say? 10, 9,
8, 7, 6, 5. Standby studio. Good luck, everyone.
and we're live. But it works. It works. It's a great app. That is pretty much what it does. Now, you'll notice that I have a cable hanging out of the iPad. I don't want that to, I don't want the battery to die on me. And I don't particularly want it plugged in either. But what I have here is a battery pack. I have a very short cable and a battery pack. The battery pack just sits underneath of the stand that it's on. So if I pull that back even more, you'll be able to see that better. There we go. And it just sits underneath there. And it's completely in your face. It's big enough to see. You can control that. You can change how it looks if you want. I've been looking for something like this for ages, and I really wanted it on an iPad or a phone, and that one works on both. It's very inexpensive. Brings me back. Exactly, Graham. Now you can see behind the scenes. Mike winding me up because tonight I was trying to save something and he got down to like 6 seconds and I thought, this isn't happening. But it did. It did. I love it when he says, good luck, everyone. In fact, I've got a great blog post about that, Graham. Remind me and I'll get that blog post up. So I'm loving that app. If I tap it, I can change it to a clock, which I don't want. I want mine digital. I don't want it with only the... Oh, and there's our reminder, which you're not seeing, so I'll leave it there. I don't want it with just the hours and minutes. This is a countdowner, so you've got a start button. You've got that where you actually set it, and there's all other kinds of things here if you want complicated. That's actually more of a radio clock, but I still don't want that one. I want that one. Now, you'll see that there is a button there that says Add. And you are a VIP. In other words, I have paid the in-app purchase. I didn't see one ad before I paid for the in-app purchase, but I paid it anyway. It was 99 pence. To me, I'm only ever going to use that. It does one thing and it does it well. That's it. But I wanted to pay because I did not want an ad popping up at an inopportune moment and obscuring my view. And I think, 99p, that's fair price, so I'll pay it. So that's one thing that you could use. The other one is, let me get my phone out for that one. Why have I got 10 notifications in WhatsApp? What's going on now? Right, I will show this in the same way, if I can find it. Where have you gone? There you are, there you are. Right, here, another device. I have this thing, which is called P-Clock. Now, you'll see that's been counting for some considerable time. I'm in the red. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to cancel out of that. So let's come out of that and close it. All right, come on. Yeah, I don't want to start it. I want to get back to the others. All right, there we go. That's what it looks like. So let me see if you can see that. I'll do some screenshots of this so you can see it properly. But basically, you set the length of your speech, presentation, live session, whatever. And So I've got one on there that is short. It says short. Now, you should be able to see that. You can see me as well, can't you? In a bit of a reflection off mic. Right, you can see it says 30 seconds, 20 seconds, 15 seconds. The 30 seconds is in green. The yellow is in the middle. And there's red at the end. I've done that short so I can actually tap to start, and in 30 seconds you'll get taken through the entire application. First thing I'm going to do, just make sure I've got my lock off. Right, tap to start. So tap to start, turn it sideways, and it starts counting down. Now obviously that's a very short countdown. You could make that 99 minutes if you wanted to. But what happens at the 20 seconds is it changes to amber. At the 15 seconds, it changes to red. So that's now counting down in red. I know it looks orange, but it's red. When you get down to 0, that's when you're about to be unceremoniously removed. But if you look at that, it changes to a red background and it carries on counting. So you're now into the danger zone of being dragged off. So these apps do two totally different things if you think about them. This one on the phone, and it does work on an iPad, is allowing you to determine your exit strategy. So I'm going to talk for 50 minutes. I am going to start wrapping up at 10 minutes, and I want a reminder to literally wrap up at 3 minutes. And that will change colour in front of you and show you exactly where you're at in terms of doing that. This one behind is just a clock. So I'm using that as a radio clock. I prefer digital. I know most radio stations have an analog clock. But I just prefer a digital one. So I am quite happy with those apps. This one had been around for a while, but it did get an update, so it worked on the other phones. I think it could do with a bit of another update to work on this one. But when I say work, it's just a visual thing. But both of them were incredibly inexpensive. So I'll get the links and pass those along. I'm going to go back to my desktop now because the notification we were talking about has appeared. There it is in the top right corner. Mike, Lola wants to go out. Mm-hmm. So it's a standard notification, just a system notification. You won't get that notification if your notifications are disabled. But if they're not, then you will, and that's what it will say. And you can configure in terms of, does that stay on the screen or is it only there for a little bit? Good night, Stephen. Right, so that was basically timings. There are other things to think about, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to make sure Jonathan comes back with questions, etc. And then we can actually go in next time and have a look at how to do all of that, basically. So let's hide that, and we don't want the one with the video in, do we? We want this one, and what have we got? Oh. Right, I'll get my camera set up so it's in the right place because we've got to do this unboxing. I'm sorry, it's got to be done. It's been talked about endlessly, so it's got to be done. So let's do it. So I'm moving everything out of the way so I can get the thing on there. Would be a good idea if I had a light on, wouldn't it? Which is part of my setup that I should have done. Come on. There we go. Now we've got some light on it. And we have the unboxing. So let's come out of there. Got two keyboards and I'm pressing the wrong one. You need to see this. Now, this was one of our most important arrivals of the week. This was. Other than the food, obviously. It was this one. And I knew what it was and I didn't open it. I thought, no, I've gone on about this endlessly. There was a saga to this, and if you weren't with us on Marooned, we had a problem. This went missing in transit. But it arrived, and I thought, that's it, I'm going to save that. Mike said, aren't you opening that? And I said, no, going to do it on Friday night. Because, you know, they can't get any tech to us. There is a 4-week backlog now on tech. So I want a cable, 4 weeks. But these arrived. That's all that matters. There we go. Now, to the uninitiated, you've no idea what that is, have you? Could be anything. To the initiated, you know exactly what that is. Let me open it and reveal all to the uninitiated. You know, like the toilet roll fiasco for us humans? Poo bags. Nowhere had any. So I placed an order. Now, I could only place an order. You're thinking, there's 3 rolls there and in the pack. It doesn't tell you how many's on it. I think it's 72 per roll, and there's 24 rolls. I'll let you do the maths. So I had to buy the whole lot. 1,080 poo bags. Now, the problem was they lost them, which meant I was in the sticky, tricky position of making a decision whether I ordered another 1,080 poo bags. I was thinking they're going to outlive all of us if I buy that many. But I could see that they were selling out again. And I thought, you've lost them. Should have arrived last weekend. Didn't arrive until I think it was Tuesday night. But they are here now. So there you go, Kim. I know you must have been fabulously interested in all our poo bags, but here they are. Oh, look. Thankfully, I did not order a second lot. Lola was less than thrilled. But she does have slaves and staff, doesn't she? So there's all the poo bags. Sadly, I've not had any tech delivered, but I knew you'd followed my pain with the poo bags and would want to see them. There you go. No idea if they're any use or not. They're not a brand we've used before. But Amazon are devious. The last time we had them, we bought them from Amazon. So they're Amazon branded. They were £4.50. Including the container that these go in, because it's all highly technical. To make this relevant to you on the tech front, these are highly, highly technical. They actually have a spindle inside them that goes into... if anybody's got a dog and they're running out of poo bags, I'm quite happy to share. Lola must have... That must be easy, what? Say 2 a day even. It's well over a year, so I'm quite happy to share. We're saying that, if anybody's missing anything locally, we'll just, share whatever it is we've got, hence the toilet paper today. So that spindle goes inside a container. The label here is removed. 1 poo bag sticks out and you just pull and then it tears off. That's the logic of it. Mike's actually got a bag that Rachel bought him at Christmas, and there's a slot for this to go into, and the bag comes through like a cut in the bag with like a rubber surround, and you just pull one out, and like when it gets to the end, and there you've got a poo bag. So now you see, all the science of the poo bags. Did Lola need one?
No.
She just wanted to play.
Yeah.
I knew it.
No. She wanted to toilet.
Yeah, that's all right.
But she didn't need a poo bag.
Right.
Without getting too graphic.
I'm sharing it with the uninitiated, showing them the science of the poo bag. There's a MacBites title in there somewhere. Yeah. Isn't there? There is. So that was our week. So let me get you back. I am switching you back to my Mac. There we go. In the distance. Right, let's get in here and wrap up. Right, let me know about the virtual presenting thing. Paul said that was useful. I'm waiting to hear from Jonathan now. But we are back.
Jonathan's asleep.
I know Jonathan's asleep. Quiet or we'll disturb Jonathan. Or alternatively, Klaxon for Isaacs. We'll be back next week. It's a Friday again. Oh, I can't believe it's April. Mind you, March has been a bit of a disaster, hasn't it, really? Yeah. March has just totally merged into one. It really has. So we'll be back with After Hours next week. Now, I am completely bereft of slots, although I'm quite happy to do the second part of the Virtual Trainers Toolkit and show you all the PowerPoint end and the Keynote end and the Zoom end and any other end you would like to talk about. So that's why we wanted questions. Jonathan.
And don't forget the time change.
And don't forget the time change. Absolutely.
Not for us.
It is our time change.
No, it's still 9 o'clock our time.
Oh, it's still 9 o'clock our time, but it will change for everybody else. But we'll put in a link so you can click on it and actually see the time. And there's us just tear one off and put it in a pocket before we go out. Tracy, it's much more scientific than that.
The 4th is Saturday.
Is it? Oh! Oh my word, Graham, well spotted. How did that happen, Mike?
Should it have been the 3rd?
Yeah. It's next Friday, isn't it?
It's next Friday.
It's next Friday. We probably cancelled something, not going out. Okay, scratch that. Let's put this to use. Let's do this. It's not the 4th. It's the 3rd. Well spotted, Graham. Look at that for poster design. Can't say fairer than that, can you? It's Friday. Brilliant. Oh my God. Now, also, don't forget, we are going live every day at 7 o'clock. It's been fabulous. Don't know if you've caught up, Graham, but we had Pete on last night talking all about the air ambulance. It was fascinating. I actually ended up talking about the air ambulance today with somebody else who was moaning about the NHS and that they should be given more money. And I was able to chip in and said, you know, the ambulance service, they have to pay for that themselves. Oh, I sounded fabulous. Knew exactly what I was talking about. So thank you for that, Pete.
How old's Jonathan? How old's Jonathan?
Jonathan's 30.
30.
30. Well spotted, Graham. Oh, God. Honestly, what were we doing on the 3rd? I mean, obviously everything's got cancelled, but I can't even remember what it was. Dear me. Glad you enjoyed it. Right, so let me get back up a bit. Glad you enjoyed that, Kim. Wonderful all the way round. Excellent. Good. Isn't Jonathan younger? He's younger than the rest of us. I can only assume it's exhausting being 30 these days. Let's just say that. Can you imagine him catching up on this in the morning? He'll be on Slack with, sorry, nodded off again. You can't even blame him an active social life at the minute. Well, not outside the house, he can't.
We did have a birthday party last night.
He was at a party last night, but I believe it was a virtual one. And Pete was at a party tonight, hence coming home late, because I did the poster for that. The cough-in, don't
Virtual
ask.
party.
Another virtual party. Marooned in Seattle. Wait, do you know it could have been Queen? Oh, was it a concert, Mike?
No.
Has that concert at the Bridgewater been cancelled
No.
yet? Can't believe that. That's disgusting. Is it May? It's May, isn't it? We'll still be under lockdown in May. Boris is rabbiting on about it'll all be sorted by Easter. Mind you, I think Donald Trump tried that one. This was before Boris caught it. May? Not this year, but we'll see. We paid out a fortune for those tickets. I reckon it could have been a concert. He should be able to stay awake. In his defence, he's a busy lad, isn't he? He's a busy lad. I think he's been over to Leeds taking food parcels. Honestly, never mind, Jonathan. We'll let you off. Gives you all the more time to be in Slack tomorrow to tell us what you think and provide us some questions. So anything you think about virtual this week, let me know. You've got an idea of what I had in there. Can add to that. Lots of things I do. I can actually take you in and show you how I would set stuff up. Let me know what would be useful to you. Your eldest is 30. You think you've got problems. You know the one that adopted us? It's heartbreaking. She's 35. She's not pleased either. She said, I'm nearer 40 now than 30. I said, don't worry about it. It only gets worse after that. So yes, Rachel's 35, but obviously I would have been a child bride, if not illegal. No, I think I was just legal. I think that was the thing. I was just legal. Which is even more terrifying. But Rachel thought I was the same age as her, so I live with that and I'm quite happy with that. Excellent. Oh, I can go on and have a look at that. Oh, excellent. You can watch old concerts of the Seattle Symphony online. I wish they did that at the Bridgewater, because it's the Manchester the Halle Orchestra, Manchester, and they do some fantastic stuff. Our friends usually go to an opera that's there at Christmas, but they didn't fancy the opera this year, did they?
No.
And what did they end up going to see? The Messiah.
Yeah.
Handel's Messiah. Well, I wound them up. They'd gone for a meal in Manchester, and we were going to a concert. They did not know we were not joining them at the Bridgewater, and they're all rather la-di-da. Think. Oh, if you've read that thing I put in about keeping up appearances, they're very keeping up appearances. So I said to Mike, just stand there, I'm going to take a picture. He said, what for? I said, you'll just wait and see. So I took a picture of Mike in his Agnetta outfit. And I sent it to the ones going to Handel's Messiah and said, hang on, we're on our way. I think the one who'd organised it nearly had a coronary. Luckily, Nina was there, me and my bestie. And she knew we were going to see ABBA, but he didn't. I'm very naughty, I know. I shouldn't do that. But I did. Well, what food have we got, Mike? We've now got things like mushrooms and a cucumber.
Chocolate.
We've got dog food, which is all that matters. You've got chocolate. You had some toffees as well, didn't you? Unless you finished them all.
No, they're there. Oh, don't be cheeky.
He's got toffees. He's still got his toffees. And do we have a banana? Because we didn't get any fruit. But I think we might have one banana left. So it's either going to be a banana, but of course, we've only got 4 gluten-free muffins, and I really want to enjoy those, so I think I'll leave that till tomorrow. How about we have a crumpet and a muffin? And really indulge yourself. We don't actually eat gluten-free bread or cakes or anything that often. So when I spotted them and they weren't out of stock, I thought, you know what, it's food, it'll count. So I just bought the lot. So I'm thinking tomorrow could be let's have toast for breakfast, a crumpet for lunch and a muffin for afternoon tea. That's what I'll be doing tomorrow. Tonight, not sure. We've got a support thing in the morning, so we better head off and look after that, hadn't we?
Setting my mother up on Skype.
Yes,
Zoom.
setting your mother up on Zoom. What I find comical is, about a week ago, this is how fast things are moving. About a week ago, we said, you know what, you could do your stuff on Zoom. No, I'm fine. Midweek, it was, you could do your stuff on Zoom, you know. I've got a friend doing that. No, I'm fine. Tonight, can you set me up on Zoom really soon? I need to get in there. People are holding, what was it, virtual tea parties. So we said, yes, we'll do it. So we could also come back and feed back what it was like doing the onboarding. The onboarding's going to be fascinating, but we'll do it. We'll do it and report back. So we'll be back with you tomorrow night, 7 o'clock UK time. For the last time, that will be the same as it was tonight. The day after, it will move. But I promise I will write an email. I had one written for today, but I didn't quite finish it, and then everything just... So I will. I'm going to do the email first. I've also got to get a course up. Sorry, Tracy. I'll send you the picture. I'll put the picture on Slack. Because I said to Mike, can you look as sort of terrible as possible? Because I want them to think we're going to rock up with you in that outfit. And he did. I only wish we had a picture of him at the other end. I got reported back to. What? We can't. Ooh! And he ran out of words to say it was that bad. But I enjoyed it. I know I'm naughty. I am, but I enjoyed it. Good night. You try your yoga. Love to hear about it. So we're going to head off and find something to eat. We're really going to indulge ourselves tomorrow. And we'll be back with you at 7 o'clock. But until then, it's good night from me.
It's good night from me.
And we will both see you next time. Good night, guys.